I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum, 'cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, I'm still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway. Half the world away, half the world away, half the world away. I've been lost, I've been found, but I don't feel bad.
Good day, good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are in the world. You're listening to the Half the World Away Celtic podcast from Hail Hail Media. My name is Kevin O'Neill. I'm based in Mandarin, Western Australia, originally from Coatbridge, and all the way over the other side of Australia, we have got Mr. Patrick Close in Melbourne, Victoria. G'day, Pat.
G-Day, Kevin. G-Day.
G-Day, mate. And how are you, mate?
I'm fine and dandy. This is our least prepared podcast we've ever done, so this could either be very, very good or could go completely tits up. So let's... it could be the shortest one we ever do as well. So anything under 3 hours and we're doing well.
That's true. Are you missing the football already, Pat?
Well, not really, no, because I've got EFL stuff. It's kind of weird, not weird, but it's a good thing when the EFL season's kind of well underway. So when the Celtic games are over, but swiftly just move over to the EFL stuff. So I'm quite happy with that. Apart from the fact my team's like third bottom of the ladder and playing absolutely shit, but we're rebuilding, Kev. We're rebuilding. So, but that's another story for another day. But no,
another story for another day, for another podcast, probably.
For the AFL podcast that we will end up doing, no doubt, at the end of the AFL season.
But that's all right. But tonight, folks, as well, for all 2 of you that are listening, if there are even 2 that are listening, we've got somebody else tonight with us on the call. We're joined by somebody that's a bit new to the show, a Mr. Martin Kelly, again over in Melbourne. G'day, Martin.
Hi, mate. How are you?
Very, very good. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good.
Excellent. Now, Martin, what I like to do when we do have somebody new to the show on, I like to ask them a little bit about where you live or where you stay, as we would say, back in Scotland. How long have you been out in Oz? You've obviously got a Celtic connection. Just a little bit about your background, mate.
All right, mate. I've been out here since '97. I live in Melbourne. Originally from Glasgow, mainly from Maryhill and Govanhill. Lived in both parts there, and obviously a lifelong Celtic fan and a member of the Jock Stein Celtic Supporters Club in Melbourne.
Excellent. So you've known Pat for quite a while.
Since '97.
Does he annoy you?
Certainly never buys me a drink.
Does Martin annoy you, Pat?
Yeah, he does, because Martin's Martin's the worst singer in our supporters club.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Is that because you like a little chant, Martin?
Look, I think if you're going to sing, why sing in key and why not sing really loud? It's that simple.
A kind of shouter singer, one of those.
I don't believe anything under 11 isn't worth singing.
Is that in terms of volume?
Yeah, in terms of volume. So you can go to 10.
Spinal tap style.
I go to 11. Don't see the point. I go on anything less than 11.
Quite right, mate. Good stuff. Well, Martin, listen, it's great. Thanks for agreeing to come on the little show tonight to give us a little bit of somebody else's point of view other than myself and Pat. It's always good to hear somebody new coming onto the show, and hopefully you enjoy yourself tonight, mate, and we'll have a bit of a laugh and a bit of the crack, and we'll see how we go.
Yeah, cool, mate. I'm enjoying it.
Good. Right. Well, what we'll do, folks, again, as usual, if there is anybody... Sorry we're a wee bit later than we said we were going to be tonight. We're maybe running about 10-15 minutes late from going live. If there is anybody out there that's actually listening live, as usual, you can get us... we like being interactive in this little show. So if you are out there in Twitterland, you can send your tweets to @halftheworld88. So we've got a little bit of a schedule which I'll mention in a little minute. But if you've got any little questions or comments you like to make, or you do know that I like to give you all a little shout out as well if you are listening in. So send your tweets there, your tweets there, I should say. But you can also, if you do fancy calling us in and joining in the show, and we can have a bit of a chat. You can call us on Skype. So the Skype name again is the same as the Twitter handle. It's halftheworld88. Is that correct, Patrick?
Yeah, close enough. Give me a chance, Kev. Give me a chance.
No cigar.
Is close enough good enough?
Well, usually I get it wrong, Martin. I always usually balls it up because it's really, really simple. But I sometimes I say it's half the world away, which is completely wrong and incorrect, mate. It's half the world 88. So yeah, so you can Skype us in that if you're listening and you're listening to something we're saying and you disagree or you agree or you just want to join us as well on the call. Skype us in on that. And of course, if you're on, you'll be on Spreaker if you're listening in as well. We've got the chat room on there, and I will try my best to keep up with any messages that go in there. But so far, I don't think we've got anybody listening, Pat. So it might be quite an easy show, mate.
Could be a quick one, Kev.
But we'll see. We'll see how we go. Right. So the script tonight, folks. This is a bit of a. I guess it is a bit of an end of season review. We did want to kind of end the season with doing something like this. I know there's been another few podcasts doing similar things. This is our little spin on it, I suppose. But Patrick, as usual, has pulled the rabbit out of the hat. You're always saying you're unprepared, mate, but you've done some fantastic prep again. You've got us a little run list of stuff. And might I add,
a little one. I think it goes beyond little tonight, Kev.
We'll see how we go. But might I add, and Martin, you probably don't even know this, but just when I spoke to Pat, when I first came on tonight here, just before the show started, I was wondering where Pat was because his Skype was ringing out for quite a while. And he told me he was away brushing his teeth, mate, before the show. What do you think of that, Martin?
Look, the man likes to be prepared. I'm just wondering, what's he doing with his teeth involved in this show that needs them to be cleaned?
If this was a TV broadcast or it was something, or there was some, maybe a lovely lady in the vicinity or something and his breath was particularly manky or something, then I could understand brushing your teeth pre-show. But I just found that a bit strange.
Do you think he's trying to impress you by brushing his teeth?
Well, see, if he hadn't have told me, though. If he hadn't have told me, I would be none the wiser anyway. Yeah,
but that's why he's told you, to impress you.
Well, the only reason he told me is because I asked him, why did he take so long to answer?
Oh, no.
And you see what I mean? He didn't come on and say, okay, by the way, I brushed my teeth tonight.
No, well, I think he was doing something else, and he's claiming he was brushing his teeth.
Oh, right. Martin, can I just mention, this is a family show, mate.
Hey, I'm not saying what he's doing. If you've got a dirty mind, that's not my fault.
Can I just but apart from you guys boring the complete tits off of anybody listening to this thing, the reason I was doing it is because Kev talks so much flipping nonsense. I want a quick, sharp exit and straight into bed, so I don't have to brush my teeth after this. So that's the main reason for it.
Yeah,
and I'm blaming Kev.
You're making that up, Pat.
No. Damn true. It's true. So, do you want me to get a Bible out? Is it? Do we have a Bible in the house?
You already get your onesie on.
I don't own a onesie, but it's close to it. So it's a pretty cold Melbourne night, Martin. So, but that's all right. The family have got the heating on full blast. It's probably about 30 degrees in the house anyway. So, all good. Right, get on with it, boys. Come on. This is going to take. This is going to be.
Get on with the year-in review.
See, this is usually how it goes, though, Martin. This is why the shows go for so long. But anyway, before we do get into it, one more thing to say. I've got one more thing to say here. This show is coming to you in association with Heineken.
Oh.
I've been in touch with Heineken, and I'm trying to get some sponsorship from them, and I'll let you know how that goes, because I tweeted them just before the show started. We got a direct message back to say I had to register to confirm my age. But so I've done that now, so hopefully I'll hear from them.
Actually, Kev, can we should what's the Twitter handle? Should we start tweeting them and saying that we're now pushing the product online and stuff like that?
It's a good idea, Pat. I can tell you this right now, because their Twitter handle is simply, oh Christ, where is it here?
Simply, oh Christ, is it? Okay, that's quite a difficult one.
It's
Heineken.
at Heineken, if you please. That's spelt HEINEKEN. So yeah, if anybody listens to this or listens back to it, tweet Heineken for us, please, and say half the world away. They do give you good mentions. Send the boys a few cartons, and I'll continue to promote them, because it is a wonderful beer. So anyway, yeah, Heineken, great beer. Get out and buy it. And
I would also like to say I like Maserati cars, and I think they're really good as well. If they want to send me a car.
Have you got their Twitter handle? I think you're aiming a bit high there, Martin. I might have a chance of a carton, mate. I don't think you've a hope in hell of your Maserati.
You've got absolutely no chance of getting a carton. We'd be lucky if my local fish and chip shop sponsored us, never mind flipping Heineken. So anyway, get on with it. Come on, move.
Right, okay, so without further ado, right, the strategy here is tonight we're going to review the season, as I said there, and we're going to have a little bit of a breakdown going by month. We're going to read out a few little, I guess, reminders to us, because as Martin and myself were saying before the show started, our memories maybe aren't as sharp as they once were, and I do sometimes struggle unless I've got a little prompt and something jumps into my head. Yes, that's right. So thankfully, again, Pat has put a fantastic little list of reminders for us together. And we're going to go through month by month this season. We will try to be quite quick, right enough. We won't spend too much time talking about them. And then we'll have a little blather about some points on each month, sorry. And then we'll see how that goes. Does that sound okay?
Aye.
Oh, sounds good. You okay with that, Patrick?
What was my idea? So yeah.
Good on you, Pat. Right, listen. Why don't you start us off then? We'll talk about the month of August 2012.
Yeah, let's cast our mind back. Mate. So August of last year might seem like a long time away, and some of these games might be a bit sort of not quite so fresh in the memory. But we had quite a bit of success in the Champions League. So we had Helsinki, we had a 2-1 victory at home. I think we went 1-0 down on that and came back, and a 2-0 victory away from home. And then Helsingborg 2-0 away and 2-0 at home, so we cruised through that one. In the SPL, we had 1-0 victory against Bonnie Doon, against Aberdeen at home, and also 4-2 against Inverness away. I think that's the one when all the young players played against Inverness, but I'm not 100% sure. But if the one person that is listening wants to check that on Twitter for us or on Google for us, that'd be good. We had Ki Sung Young, who left for Swansea in that month, and also we played Rea in August, and we had a 2-0 loss against Real Madrid in Philadelphia in a friendly.
That was the one, I think, where young Dylan McGeer got his jaw broken or something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, it was horrible.
I did.
And to be fair, that set the boy back. I mean, he was coming into that game in a bit of form as well. Not that game, but into the season in a bit of form. So looked like one of these guys that was going to push through into the first team squad. But so I guess one of the topics we were raised for that month is that Key was obviously moved on to Swansea, but I think it was 6.5 million or something along those kind of figures. But was he such a big loss for us throughout the year? Did we really miss him? Good player, and I don't think anyone disputes that. But was he a loss for us during the year? Kevin?
I would say it's a funny one, Pat, because I did really like Key as a player. I thought he's the type of player I like seeing at Celtic. He had a great touch, a great pass. He actually had a fairly decent shot on him as well. And I really liked him as a player. Was he a loss to us? I guess over the course of the season, because let's face it, we always knew at the start it was hopefully going to be a coasting our way to the finish line without too many mishaps along the way. So whether or not it was a major loss, I'm not sure. Maybe if there were stronger opponents in the league, it might have been seen as that. But I think our midfield was fairly strong this year. So I would probably say over the piece, no. Sad to see the guy go because I liked him as a player, but I don't think we missed him too much because we had plenty of good cover there.
Like I would agree, Kevin. The only thing I'd also say is anything 6+ million for a player from Scotland, you're going to take it. I think the midfield held itself together well. I think it was also, but having to have one eye on the Champions League, I think we coped very well with that in the midfield. So certainly a loss, but did we really miss them through the year? Probably not. Could we have done with them? But we would have probably played better with them. But 6-odd million, you're going to go. Realistically, there's very few players would, if we got offered that sort of money, we wouldn't sell for.
Yeah, no, that's a fair comment. What do you think yourself, Pat, about Key?
See, at the time I wasn't really too fussed about it. But I think, I think in Europe he would have done a bit of a job for us. I reckon he is a good player, and probably that sort of format of playing I think might have kind of suited him a bit better. So, obviously a very good passer of the ball and all that sort of stuff. So, like I said, at the time I wasn't really too fussed, but we were kind of expecting guys like Kyle and that to push through, to really be pushing, players for, and just to sort of compete and make and get the midfield function in that way. But I mean, Kyle was. Yeah, he was he didn't really play that well during the year. He got a bit injured, and I don't know, it was an attitude thing and stuff. So I mean, I think that was maybe half the thinking was that we were well covered with guys like that. But we saw when Brown went out, there was just such a lot missing in the midfield. There was no one there to sort of pick up the pieces of that. Brown was obviously as well being a bit of a buzz bomb. Pressuring players and stuff like that. As you can see, the last few games of the season, he could pick out a pass as well and. But yeah, that. It's hard to say. I mean, I reckon at the time I wasn't too fussed, but maybe in hindsight it would have been a good player to have. But as you said, cha-ching.
Yeah, exactly. Good money. Right, we've spent enough time in August. Martin, how do you want to talk us through September, maybe?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, there was obviously a couple of highlights and a couple of lowlights, but look, Benfica, nothing each. Obviously, Hibs 2-2 draw and St Johnstone 2-1 away victory there. Motherwell and Dundee United 2-0, but obviously at home for Dundee United winning. And look, after that, basically Miku and Ambrose signing, and we raised some decent money for the Oscar. The Oscar appeal.
The Oscar Knox.
Aye. 350 grand. So it was a hell of a month in September. I suppose one of the things we should talk about is Miku. What do we think? Do you think he worked out? Do you think he didn't?
I mean, I guess from my point of view, Miku for me was a bit of a disappointment, I think, because he's one of these guys that he came in, he'd had experience in La Liga, and I loved. I don't see much of it over in Oz now, unfortunately, just because of the time it kicks off and stuff like that now. But I used to love watching it back when I was back in Scotland, watching it on Sky Sports on the Saturday nights and the Sunday nights. And I would happily watch a mid-table clash of teams, a bloody Getafe versus Real Sociedad or something like that, because I just love watching the style of players. And for me, loads and loads of players in La Liga were excellent, technically gifted players. So when I heard we were getting Miku, okay, he's actually, where is he from actually? He's not Spanish anyway though, is he? He's a Colombian or something?
Venezuelan.
Venezuelan. He's Venezuelan. So, but I mean, he'd been in La Liga, so I'm always keen on hearing anybody that we ever get linked with coming from that league, because I think they're technically gifted and all that good stuff as well. But the guy for me was, I wanted him to do well and I wanted him to succeed. But was he a bit of a flop? Definitely. I think he was. I think it's always the same. Celtic fans I think we always do like to see foreign players coming in and doing really well and succeeding and falling in love with the club and all that kind of stuff. He has always been, or he always was, on the kind of periphery, I think. I remember when he did get, I can't even remember the goal. I can't remember how many goals he even scored for us. But I do remember he got a goal. I can't even remember who it was against, but I thought, right, maybe this is him turning the corner here.
One club goal for us in a total of 11 appearances.
Yeah, there you go. I can't even remember who that was against either, Martin, but I do remember when I saw it going in, and I thought, right, maybe hopefully this is, as you always hope with a new signing, especially a striker, once they get a goal, gives them maybe a wee boost. It takes a bit of the pressure off them, and you hope they're going to go on a wee run. But it never really happened for the guy, and I think he was a bit of a flop, and we certainly won't miss Miku.
Nah.
What do you think, Pat?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think it was a good idea. I mean, it was worth the risk. It's a guy you're bringing on loan. If he hits the ground running and makes a big difference, then fair enough. You've got the sort of the clause in the contract. You can sign him up and all that sort of stuff. But the goal you're talking about, by the way, was, I think it was Dundee United. Was it? I think his first goal was it? I can't quite remember now. But it was against the
goal.
No, it was his first. I'm sure it was made by Tony Watt. Tony Watt sort of, I think they broke the play out in the middle and it came through to Watt. He kind of pretty much set him up for a run through and goal. I mean, he took it well, but I mean, a lot of people were sort of proclaiming his performance against Barcelona as well. But again, like, it was any better or worse than what Hooper could have done? Well, it's hard to say. And you put this in 10 years' time, and when you're thinking of the Barcelona game, you're thinking back on it, you're not going to think of the performance Miku put in. You're going to think of the Wanyama goal. You're going to think of Tony Watt coming on and making that sort of massive difference. So that's the things you're going to remember about it. So
it's funny. See how you mentioned that there, the back. This shows you how much I'm. And I must admit, I don't usually do this. I don't usually miss the football for a few weeks, but I don't know what it is this season, but I'm missing it already, to be honest. And just during the week there, I put on. I've still got it on my Foxtel IQ thing, so that's your Sky Plus equivalent for anybody back home. But I stuck on the old Barca game again, and I must admit, see, when I saw the lineup and Miku was starting the game, I couldn't remember him starting that game, and I thought, bloody hell. But you're right, the game he did okay in the game. He wasn't absolutely outstanding, but as you said, you wouldn't remember it for Miku's performance, that's for sure. But I just found it incredible that when I was watching it again, just to relive it all and stuff like that, he actually started the thing. I totally forgot about the guy.
Yep. I mean, he put in a shift. Don't get me wrong. He was busy and stuff like that, but there was no. He didn't. I wouldn't say he changed the performance. I mean, you could have probably possibly stuck Lassard up there and might have done the same thing, or a half fit. Because I think, was Hooper even on the bench? I can't remember now. I think he was on the bench, wasn't he? Gary Hooper. I don't think they played him.
Not sure.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain he was. Again, it's hard
was
thinking
he not
back.
Injured or something like that?
Sorry?
Was he not injured or something? No.
I think he was injured. Was he not injured coming into it? I can't remember now. But I can't remember. But I mean, obviously Hooper was. I just recall some sort of attitude thing with Hooper back then. That there was a little bit before it. I'd have to sort of look back on again and go through all the articles and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I think in conclusion, yeah, he probably was a flop. But look, it was worth the risk. As I said, apart from losing a bit of cash, probably his wages were fairly high. They didn't really lose anything out of it, but I guess one of those things, he takes someone else's spot, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
But yeah, I think that kind of probably rounds up September, unless you guys have anything else to say. It was
well, I was
fairly
hectic. Just Martin, do you have any views on Miku at all? Whether he was a flop?
I think he was. To be honest, I probably agree with a lot of what you said. I think he was worth a punt. Getting a guy in from La Liga, it was worth, and realistically a 1 year loan. If it works out, sensational. If it doesn't, goodbye sort of thing. Yeah. I think it's worth a punt. I don't really think it's worked out. That few games, 11 games and 1 goal, including I think 5 or 6 of those coming on as a sub. I think it's not. It's I can't see him staying around, and I think it's But I think we're all a hero in hindsight in these things, and I think it's good that we at least took a punt on him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Did you say? I think was it something that you'd put down earlier on, Pat? Has he actually went? Has he left now, Miku, or is he? still hanging about, him and Lassad.
I think it's kind of pretty much assumed. I mean, Lassad has been let go by
Right.
all accounts. His contracts, I think it's just one of these mutual agreement things, I would guess. The fact that, again, didn't quite work out. See, in truth, the first sort of few snippets I saw, because both of them kind of came in roughly at the same time,
Yeah.
was that I actually thought Lassad was a technically better player when I'm talking like a few touches here and there, but again, same scenario. Again, he wasn't exactly. I reckon Lassad came as a kind of a backup for Sammy. I reckon if Sammy would have been out at any stage of the season, with any sort of serious injury for a long term one, I think Lassad would have been the guy they would have looked to come in and replace him. But not that I'm a sort of massive Samaras fan, but I don't think Lassad's in the same class as him. So I think in conclusion, both of them, again, same scenario, both were worth a punt. Neither of them really worked out. They were probably there just as backup in case, if Hooper went down injured. I mean, Stokes did for a while. And you would have thought one of them would have pushed through if Stokes was injured, but again, neither of them really did. Lassad got half a sniff, he got a couple of goals. One against Hearts, I remember, which was a cracking cross from Chris Commons. But
that's the one I always remember with Lassad,
yeah.
At Tynecastle.
Well, there weren't many of them, so we're pretty hard to remember them.
That's true, but no, it was a cracking goal actually for the season, to be honest. But we'll maybe talk about that later. But anyway, we'll move on to October. In October saw, in the Champions League, 2 superb performances. We had an away victory, a rare away victory in the Champions League away to Spartak Moscow. We beat them 3-2. That was a cracking night. We also were so unlucky to come away from the Nou Camp with a 2-1 defeat against Barcelona. So that was obviously the first of that double header with them, and that was a bit gutting. It was one of those felt really proud after it and all the rest of it. But if only we Jamesy Forrest had tracked back that run a little bit better, and we could have come away from the Nou Camp with a win each. But anyway, the Champions League performances in October were superb. In the Scottish Premier League, we beat Hearts 1-0. We beat St Mirren 5-0, an absolute humping. And we had a 2-0 result against Kelly. Was that a 2-0 defeat there, Pat? Have you written
it? Was
that down?
It was a 2-0 defeat, yes it was.
Disgusting. I'm trying to even remember that. 2-0 away.
Blocked from memory.
That was at home to Kelly.
It was a home, yep.
That was disgusting then. Disgusting. I can't even remember it, to be honest. I can't remember picture the goals. But anyway, we'll move on. League Cup quarter final. We trounced St Johnstone 5-0. We played in the 125th anniversary strip for the first time versus Hearts. We talked about strips in the last couple of shows, about away strips and that. What do you guys think of the 125th anniversary strip? Do you like it, Martin?
Look, I don't mind it, but I don't love it. I think it's an alright top. I think it's good to commemorate the 125th year, but realistically, it's either the 125th year or a European top or something else.
Yeah,
I think it's an alright top,
yeah.
But personally, would I buy it? Probably not. Well, I say I didn't, so that's but look, I think basically, from the marketing point of view, the club brings out 3 tops and hopes to sell as many of them as possible. I say, have any of you seen the new Liverpool top?
No, I think I did see something. Somebody had put, I don't know, was it on Facebook or on Twitter, but I didn't know, was it legit or was it a joke? But it looks like some manky vomit. Kind of, somebody's just flicked a paintbrush at it or something, and it's got a whole heap of colour through it.
I'm not.
Was that not away strips though or something? Was that away jerseys?
It's one of the away strips. But look, to me, 100. Look, I think I like the concept of it. Talking about as being in existence for 125 years and everything. But as I said, I think they just used it as. I think they did the right thing, but they used it as an excuse for a third top when, do we really need one?
Did you like it, Pat? The 125th anniversary strip?
I would have liked it.
Didn't get too many errands, really, did it?
There's a few guys in our club commonly wear it, so our supporters club, I should say. So I wasn't. If it was more like the original one, I know this sounds really dumb, but see if it was more like the red background with the big green Celtic cross, I would have been more inclined to buy it if it was more like the original than what they actually produced. That's completely stupid. I know because it's so. Obviously the original one wouldn't have been sort of well manufactured and stuff like that. You can even see the bit of cloth where they've cut the thing out. Isn't exactly
to grow one of the nice wee handlebar moustaches, mate, to wear with it and look the part, and put your hair back with lacquer.
Well, see, like I would typically wear a Celtic top to the games at Supporters Club, and as Martin knows, the pub's not exactly the most classy place you could say in the world. And the thought of wearing the thought of wearing a bright white top to to the pint on punt on a Sunday night is not that appealing because it wouldn't come home very white. So that's why I chose not to bother. But
that's what you're washing up like this for, Pat.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I can do with keeping the money. But I wasn't. It was all right. I didn't love it. I didn't sort of rush out to buy it. Put it that way. The black ones, I reckon the black one's much better.
Aye.
Sort of looking in the sort of the third away top, but I'm kind of disappointed I didn't wear it in the cup final. I reckon it would have been a really sort of nice touch to wear it in the cup final. Personally, but
given the fact we had to wear away colours anyway, I think, and there was quite a lot. There was a little bit of maybe even a mini campaign to try to get it done, but it just didn't happen. But
would that have clashed with Hibs as well, boys?
So they say, but I sometimes think this whole clashing idea, they go a bit over the top with it, because as you boys will know, watching the Aussie rules over here, you can sometimes watch teams that, they certainly do clash, but because they're maybe wearing different colour shorts completely, or different colour socks, then it's no problem. But I'm sure at one time in the past, I remember Hibs were playing in their home top, we were playing in the hoops, and there was no clash at all. Because Hibs looked predominantly green, whereas we looked predominantly white. This was when we had the white shorts and white socks and stuff like that. They were playing with green socks. And, you're not clashing. You're not clashing with them. Okay, there's green and there's white, but the strips they certainly weren't clashing strips. So I sometimes think they go a wee bit over the top with somebody. You need to wear your change colours and all that pish. But anyway, enough about strips just now. We're still in October here. Another little memory that I'm sure we do all remember if we managed to see the game was in the game against St Mirren when we beat them. Effie Ambrose scored one of those goals and he did his somersault. I think that was his first goal for Celtic, and he celebrated by doing one of those somersaults that was quite spectacular, and I think we all enjoyed that celebration. Now, Pat, you've also made mention of the fact that in October, CFAX ended.
Yep, I put it in there because I didn't know that.
Being that now, CFAX was the old. I suppose it was it even the equivalent of the internet in those days?
The video printer.
Okay, yeah, interweb.
The interweb. Old CFAX. Many's a time we used to try to sometimes look for updates on the scores and stuff like that on CFAX. And I actually remember what me and a few of my mates back in Coatbrig used to do with the CFAX was waiting for the horse racing results coming through on it when you'd have your line on and stuff like that. But CFAX certainly had its day, didn't it?
Yep. And look, if people are questioning why we've got it in there, if it's in the Celtic Wiki, it's good enough for me. Because that's where I saw it.
Yeah, tweet us with your CFAX memories, folks, because there's bound to be millions of them. Now, the other thing was during that month as well, because of our performances in the Champions League, both Fraser Foster, La Gran Muralla, I think, as he was called in the Spanish press, the Great Wall, and Effie Ambrose, they made it into the UEFA's Team of the Week after the Barcelona game. And the question we're going to pose here, guys, for the thoughts for October, we're talking about Effie Ambrose again. So Effie's had a kind of up and down kind of a season. He won the African Nations Cup, of course, as well, and we were maybe hoping that the Effie would come back. He'd go from strength to strength from there, but it maybe didn't quite happen for him. But what Effie do we think we'll see next season? First of all, is he going to still be there? I suppose would be the first thing. But is he going to come back stronger this season? Is he going to put some of his ups and downs behind him? What would you think, Martin?
Look, I think if we're going to see him next year, well, it'll all come down. He's got a 3-year deal with us. My thought would be it's going to come down to, again, cash. if somebody offers decent money. But I think him getting a good pre-season under his arm, I think we could see. Look, I think it's either going to be good or bad. It'll be nothing in between. There'll be no mediocre. Either he'll come back on all cylinders and be an absolute superstar, or
maybe see a few more somersaults.
or he'll be either on the bench or in the stand. Basically, I think that's it. And my thought would be, let's see him. Let's see him get a good pre-season, get his fitness tip top, and then we'll take it from there.
Yep. Pat, what do you think about FA? What kind of FA will we see next season if he's around?
Well, hopefully it was reminiscent of his early season form, because I think most people when he started would agree when he set the partnership with Kelvin Wilson that everyone kind of thought, like, we've been looking out for this for years. We've actually got a decent partnership, in central defence.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was like a mirror image of the guy. He went to the African nations and by all accounts did well over there. Didn't see any of it, but did well over there. But came back and just from that Barcelona game on, it was just. I mean, we'll talk about the Barcelona game. The home game.
Yeah.
Not the Barcelona game. It was the Juve game, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When he came back
he made
from
the
that,
right arse of that, didn't he? Yeah.
Oh, it was. Yeah. I mean, it's again. We'll talk that in I can't remember which month it was, January, February, or something like that. But about whether it was the right decision. But yeah, it didn't come back the same player. So you just like to hope he comes back with even close to what he was doing early in the season.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of knockers and stuff like that. People as well, sort of saying he's a shit player. I don't think he's a shit player. I think he's a good player, just out of form, really badly out of form though.
Yeah.
So and I think it's not. I don't know about his attitude as well. He looks this whole lackadaisical kind of attitude of his, and it's like everything will be right, mate. Everyone, don't worry about it. Everything will be fine. That just kind of it's kind of cool at some stages, but sometimes it just bugs me. As if there's no sort of real passion, no real urgency. It's just a case of, this is my job. I'm alright. I'll just do it, and I'll go home and pick up my wage, and I'll go and play for my country. And you want something, a bit of fire in the belly. You know what I mean? So anyway, I guess fingers crossed.
We'll see how it pans out. Yeah, I mean, we'd all hope. He's not one of the players certainly that's been linked with moves away or anything like that. So the likelihood is he's going to be around for next season. So yeah, fingers crossed that it is the FA that he showed that he's, as you said, his early form part, because he certainly is a guy that's composed on the ball, and he can be a bit of, he can pick a pass and he can look quite composed when he's on the ball. But yeah, as you said, we'll talk about it a wee bit later on, probably about his performance against Juve, but yeah, his form was drifting away towards the end of the season, but hopefully he's the same, the original FA that we see at the start of the season. So anyway, we're moving on to November now. Patrick, do you want to take that one for us, mate?
I'll do November.
November.
That's a good one to pick, actually, isn't it? That's probably the best one of the whole lot. So Champions League, I've got the short straw there. I think. So Champions League, we had 2 games. Champions League, we played Barcelona at home. And
Hooray!
Benfica.
Tony Watt! Tony
I should have got that soundbite, shouldn't I? Yeah. Tony Watt. Premier League, we had a few games. Dundee United with a 2-2 draw away from home. St Johnstone a 1-1 draw at home. Aberdeen 2-0 away. Inverness a 1-0 loss at home. And Hearts of Midlothian a 4-0 away victory, which I think was the Mika the Lassad goal.
That was the Lassad goal, yes.
Now,
was a humpy.
Yeah, I'm going to remind me to come back and talk about. I think it was that game I'm thinking of, so I want to come back and talk about that one a bit later as well. So a couple of little interesting facts is that, and again, I guess most people know it, but just in case you didn't, was that if Barcelona didn't score in the last minute against Celtic, then we'd have finished first in the table, which was just astounding if you think about it, considering at the start of it I was thinking, Chris, if we get Europa League, we'll be doing well. And we were 1 goal away from finishing first in it. So
I didn't even realise that, Pat.
Well,
I didn't know that until you've just said that there with your very mouth, with your nice shiny teeth in your mouth.
my nice shiny West of Scotland teeth are all falling out. Aye, that's another story.
No, I didn't realise that. So no.
No, I do have West of Scotland teeth. Honestly, it's true.
No, no. You know, yes. I didn't realise that either. But
yeah. Right, okay.
No, I didn't realise we could have topped the league. There you go.
Yep. Miku he scored against Dundee United. That was his first goal. I'm fairly certain.
Ah, right, okay.
2-0 victory
He
against
was
United.
some player, that Miku, wasn't he?
He was brilliant. It's a sad loss. We were also 2-0 up against Dundee United, and that's when we lost 2 goals in the last couple of minutes.
Oh,
One by
yes.
our good friend Effie Ambrose, if you remember the little back header. I don't know what he was trying to do, but 2-0 up in the 89th or 90th minute. They scored the first of the 2, and then a long bomb into the box, and sure enough, Effie got a bit of a glance on it and put the ball in the back of the net.
That was
we also had the 125th anniversary mass at St Mary's, where Celtic were founded as well, which is we will never forget.
Some of the Barca dignitaries were there, weren't they, for that mass as well, right. I believe.
That's right.
I think the night before.
I actually think Celtic did that really well, really classy. Yep. And then I think the Green Brigade on the night of the Barca game, and I just think, and I even just think the mass thing, just pure class.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that, Martin.
I also think
pat in the back to Celtic for a change.
Aye.
Well, also the tifo as well. I mean, real massive pats in the back to the Green Brigade, because that was just astounding. That was, we'll maybe summarise that at the end, just a quick chat about it. Lassard scored against Aberdeen. That was his first goal in the month of November. And just on the Green Brigade, that was when the relationship with the police started to go a little bit, turn a little bit sour. There was, now I can't quite find the article on it, but I do recall reading it. And there was, I'm sure a fan was arrested just for having a plastic bottle in the ground.
Right.
So I'm not actually 100% sure about that. I couldn't quite find the article, but again, I was trying to rack my brain for it. But the Green Brigade, I think, set up a protest for a couple of games after that because of that very event. So, so that was a bit of a sour taste in the mouth for that one, for later in the year. We had Scott Brown had the first of his hip injuries. He was out for 10 weeks. That was in the newspaper. I don't actually know, didn't count how long he was actually out for, but and I think that's maybe something that we probably should talk about a bit later. I remember, I don't know if you saw it, Martin, there's a guy played for Sydney called Marty Martner, and he retired during the week from the Sydney Swans. Sydney Swans is the AFL team, so if anyone's
that sounds like
listening.
A comedy name. Marty Martiner.
Yeah, Martin Martner. So I think
you know what? That's a made up. That's a fake name. That's a name in a dance.
That's like Alistair McAllister.
Aye.
Marty Martner, a good player actually. He should have played for Adelaide as well. But so he retired during the week with a degenerative hip injury. And as soon as I read the article, I just thought of Scott Brown, because he pretty much has the same thing. So this guy retired I think he just turned 30 from memory. He's either 29 or 30. I think he just turned 30. So I think Scott Brown would be 27, 28 years old. So I just wonder, I don't know if you saw at the end of the Scottish Cup final that I think he had a recurrence of that injury. So I don't know whether he's going for surgery.
You think he might go down the Marty Martiner route?
I don't know. I just reckon it's a fairly massive injury to come back from, because it's kind of where your core strength and that comes from. If you can't, this guy Marty, if you read his article on it, it's really sad. The guy, he's even struggling to lace his shoes in the morning. The injury's that bad, and this is.
Get a pair of slip-ons.
Yeah.
The only thing I would think is that if it does start to go bad, what he can be then, and I don't think he can be club captain as this, but we can pick and choose his games basically, and he becomes that for the big games. You come out and we give you plenty of rest type thing, and you could get another couple of years out of him if it's managed correctly.
Well, they're going to have to, because I think there was a couple of spells during the year. I think that sort of 10-week period. And we missed him. Let's face it, when he came into the team, you saw the difference, the lift and the boost they gave him as well. So, again, not a massive Scott Brown fan, but you don't want him out for another 10, 15 weeks of next season,
Over the last couple of years, I became a much bigger Scott Brown fan than I was when he first signed. And now I think he's an absolute key player for the team. Yep.
And again, it's if he's not there, who replaces him? There's no one really like him, you know what I mean? So that's where you would have hoped that Kyle would have stepped up, but he did anything but that. So one of the last thing in the month was probably more due to a few sort of dodgy results, home form. We obviously lost to Benfica, Dundee United come back, they lost to Inverness. That was a stage where there was a bit of overreaction to some of those performances, and people were taking out on Lennon. So and he came back with the quote I managed to copy and paste was, "Look, if they are not happy with what I am doing and they want me to go, then I will." Which I think is a pretty massive overreaction. So I think everyone was a bit, not so much taken aback. No one really thought he would do it, but again, it's these little things that stick in the back of my mind. See when Everton come knocking, when you just remember these little things, you know. So but yeah, so I guess the thing to talk about for the November was, will we ever see the tifo the same as what we had against Barcelona? Because that was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah. It'd be very hard to top, I think, Pat, because it was. I've still got it as my wallpaper background and stuff like that on my Twitter. It's a fantastic image. The site that time, and again, I spent a bit of time as I mentioned earlier on. I was watching the game again, the Champions League game, the other night, and it was on ESPN over here. They had it broadcast, and the wee guy Tommy Smith, it's one of the wee commentator guys, wee Irish fella, and they were eulogising about the thing, because it was incredible when they were playing the Champions League anthems and you watch the players, the Barca players, you know, obviously when the camera thing pans along them and you can see them, you know, they're meant to be looking forward and all that stuff and being quite stern, but you just know these guys this is Barcelona you're talking about here as well. They've seen plenty of good things, and the Nou Camp's an incredible stadium, 90,000 fans and all that kind of stuff, and they do some cracking tifo displays and things like that as well. But that night as well, you could see they were kind of keeking round and having a wee look as well, and it was incredible. And when the cameras panned round, it was an unbelievable. I think we'd heard that there was going to be a big display, but see to actually see it, and then some of the pictures, the photographs and the images that were taken and are available after it, they're superb. And I think it'd be so difficult to top anything like that again. But again, you never know if the Green Brigade get a chance to do it and there's an occasion big enough to do it again. Depending what the relationship's like with Celtic and things like that, again, you never know. Maybe they'll have something else straight up their sleeve, but it'd be hard for me. It'd be hard pushed to beat that, because it was incredible.
Don't you
incredible sight to see?
Don't you think, Kev? But like, everything lined up for that. So one, we had been beaten in Barcelona.
You touched on that earlier, actually, Martin. You did touch on that. It was a culmination of a whole load of things, and that display just It was brilliant.
In these 125 years, right, we're up for this, and that everybody in the ground is up for it, and we're up to play. Realistically, what everybody believes is if the best team in the world, if not one of the best team in the world, we'd almost, drew with them over there in a last. I think it was one of those. Everything was lined up, and then on top of that was unbelievable, and I totally agree. Those Barcelona players are going to have seen everything under the sun thrown at them. And I can't remember, but one of the players, when he was talking about going to the Allianz Arena, came out with Barcelona.
It was Iniesta. Yeah.
Why am I worried going there if I played at Celtic Park?
That's right.
And look, that's quality, because you know what? Also, he doesn't have to say that. Do you know? Like, he doesn't actually have to quote, right? He can say, "I played in some of the best stadiums in the world," and not world. For him to come out and actually mention Celtic and Celtic Park, that was how special it was. And look, I think the Green Brigade, and I think one of the big things that the Green Brigade have to get credit for is, I think that cost them, was it not something like £10,000?
I'm not sure now, but yeah.
There was some figure I remember, and that is, to actually physically raise that sort of money, is unbelievable. And look, I think the hard thing in the relationship between them and the club is, I'd like to see the club back them some way, but they need to maintain their independence. And realistically, with some of their banners, when it gets to political things, the club can't back them. And I think it's that, I think the club would like to back them, but they also need to keep their independence. So I think that's quite a tough thing for both sets.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good call. Pat, what do you think yourself about the tifo display? Do you think that we will see anything like it again at Celtic Park, do you think?
It would be tough to get something better in my lifetime, I reckon. That was, as Marty elaborated on there, I think it was the whole build-up to it, the 125th anniversary and that sort of stuff. It's just, it's the whole set of emotions and the actual event, we'd pretty much maybe the best team in the world at that stage, coming to visit, it was a big Champions League game, we had to win it. Just everything kind of all the pieces fell into place. The result just made it, obviously, but it was absolutely spectacular. So and in our lifetime.
What about that last 10 minutes or so after we went? I mean, first of all, you guys must have felt the same as well. When we went 2-0 up, that's all you're thinking. We are 2-0 up against Barcelona. It was unbelievable. It was a superb strike with Tony Watt, and but to be 2-0 up against, as you said, at that particular time in the season, they probably were still the best team around. They definitely dipped in form after we taught them how to play football. But see that last 10 minutes, the nervousness of it, and then when we Messi got that equaliser, which again Big Forster did well to palm it out, but it just fell to Messi. He tucked it away, even although it was ticking into injury time, or it wasn't injury time. But you're still not thinking, Christ, we're going to fucking throw this away here. This is going to be another a 2-2. They're throwing everything at us. It's going to be
I heard the line of when Messi's goal went in, 60,000 bum cheeks got clenched together really quickly. And
that was just the ones in the stadium. The other few million around the world.
But I think also on top of that, because of how the last game had finished and how,
Yes, that was still fairly fresh in the memory, wasn't it?
Very fresh. And look, this is also, and this is where at times I get a wee bit frustrated with some Celtic fans.
Mm-hmm.
They could come and put 6 past us.
Yeah.
And, they are that, realistically, especially if you look at cost or you look at, day by day, they are so much better than us. And that's not being disrespectful to Celtic, but right, they're one of the best teams in the world, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
For us to beat them is unbelievable. And as I said, I think everything lined up. And probably one of the sort of key points for me was I met a guy from Barcelona through my work last Christmas, and he was raving just as a total random, loving that I was a Celtic fan. And part of it was after the last game, we played the Barcelona theme, and he just thought that was wonderful. But it was how we played, and it wasn't that we kicked them off the field or anything. I think that's also part of it. Is that we played football against Barcelona, and again, there's times when we played, AC Milan, all those teams, and really easily they could, as I said, they could put 5 past us in the first 20 minutes, and not be breaking sweat, sort of thing. And I think to do that's how special it was.
No, I think you're spot on. So October, it was a difficult month to top, really, when you think back to it now. Difficult month to top.
Or November, anyway.
November.
November.
So anyway. Let's move on, because obviously, Kev, we're not doing a 3-hour show tonight. I know you're desperately trying to make it happen that way, but so let's.
I've got another Heineken.
I have tweeted them, mate. I have tweeted them to say come and join us on the show, but haven't seen any response just yet.
I've not seen a flood of responses.
No.
Okay, though. There's plenty of time. I've got plenty of time.
Well, let me find Twitter from a local fish and chip shop just in case. Right, and we'll.
Right, boys, come on. Can we get to
December?
Yes, right, on you go. You talk us through December then, Martin.
All right, Scottish Cup we are both 1-1 at home, then 1-0 away. Spartak 2-1 at home, which I think then did that put us through to the last 16?
Did, yes.
And then SPL a 2-1 away to Kelly, 2-0 at home to St Mirren, a Ross County 4-0 win, Dundee 2-0 away. So is that a defeat and then a 1-0
that's a win? That's a win. No. Celtic scores a first, yeah.
Okay, and then Hibs 1-0.
That was a loss.
And look, I suppose the big one for me is the Dundee riot that basically just didn't happen.
Of course.
Aye. So, and realistically, we have got a comment here. Is it the greatest 12 months in Celtic history? I don't think it is, because I don't care what other clubs do in Glasgow. I care about us beating Barcelona, but it's certainly one of the best years ever. Okay, what do you think?
The reason, we should point out to anyone listening, the reason Martin's saying it is the little snippets I put in was we won the SPL, we got the Champions League last 16, we beat Barcelona at home on the world stage, and the Huns died.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't care what other Glasgow teams do.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
not even
I don't
Not
mind
even Partick Thistle.
but I don't care what probably South Side Glasgow teams do.
I was going to say Clyde, but that doesn't count anymore, does it? Queen's Park?
Queen's Park? Okay. No, actually, some teams are amateur as well. Anyway, I care about Celtic.
Yes, no, quite right. But to be fair to Pat, though, when he's pulled that together, he's not really mentioned anything about those other teams other than that other club died. But I would say, looking back in the history, well, certainly living history for myself, it probably has got to go down as one of the best 12 months, I would think. But there's other times as well, and others, because usually in footballing terms, you don't really think in the calendar year, do you? You always think in the season. So you're really talking from the August to the May, so you kind of think in those terms. So you would think back to one of the great years I always remember, of course, was 88 when we done the double that year as well. And that was, Martin, you mentioned this about just things falling into place and destiny and all that earlier on. 88 was another year that I think it was our centenary year, and that was always going to go. Right, and I've got some great memories of that one with the Scottish Cup semi-final and final as well. So, but yeah, in terms of the greatest 12 months in Celtic's history, I'm sure the guys that were around in '67 would maybe argue with that as well. But
look,
something
I would even throw up the O'Neill's first year and the treble-winning year now. Didn't make it to the last 16 or anything, but
that's right.
And then throw the Seville season in.
Yeah.
And some of the great, but look, it's certainly in with a shout. And there's very few years, especially if you lived through the 90s. There's very few years that we could have said, "Is this the greatest year in our history?"
Yes. Yeah.
And that's another thing that slightly annoys me. Some of the young pups talking about, how winning, we need to win a certain way. If you lived through the 90s, then losing leagues I got quite sick of that.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair call. Okay.
My turn, is it?
Sorry.
So I'll. The reason I put it in there, I guess, it was just because it was such an eventful year. You think back to the February of that year when all the stuff sort of kicked off, on Valentine's Day and stuff, and I just I'll be honest with you, I hadn't even thought or even contemplated being on Twitter, but within probably a week or so of all that sort of stuff, kind of happened, maybe even this week before, because I was kind of thought that was going to happen. I just became this absolute Twitter junkie, and for probably what would it be, maybe 6 months or so, every single day there was something to point at and laugh. It was just, it was glorious. I was just like, I don't know. I just like, I just think, as Kev said, in living memory. There's obviously been better years in terms of success and all that sort of thing, but in living memory, I reckon it's got to be up there.
And I would agree, and I know what you were saying earlier on, Martin, as well, about we don't really watch or observe what goes on with them, but you've got to admit, you've got to piss yourself laughing at what did happen, because it was, we kept all saying it at the time, it was the present that kept on giving and all these cliches as well, but it truly was. But the thing for me that was the most incredible about their demise and death was that it was one of those things that you thought, oh no, surely it can't happen. Oh Christ, it has. And then there was something else. It was the kind of, they're maybe going to go into administration. Oh no, surely that can't happen. Oh Christ, it has, your beauty. And then it was the next, you know what I mean? Then it was the next thing, and liquidation. Oh no, they won't let that happen. Oh Christ, it's happened. It just kept going on and on and on. It was super. They're going to go out to the SPL. They're going to have to start in Division 3. Oh no, now shoot, they're going to find some way around about that. Oh Christ, they haven't. And it just kept going on and on and on, and it was some air-punching moments right throughout the 12 months.
Probably my comments would be on that is that I think, first of all, some of the media's just believing stuff. So I've, the wealth off the radar of certain people.
Oh, yes.
Have you Googled them type thing? And then, them going, oh, no, but then Keith Jackson won a prize for his investigative journalism afterwards. But people seem to be, I think some of that was actually just quite amazing. And I think you're totally right. And there was this thing of, and I think we all believed it, SPL won't allow it to happen. That it,
Yeah.
well, that, and I actually think the fans standing up and saying, look,
absolutely.
And I think this line of, and if you even listen to some of the phone in still, it is, well, we need to let them back in for the good of Scottish football. Well, at what point does it become, I'll be honest, right, say like next year, have an absolute terrible year, a whole lot of injuries and end up in relegation zone. Are we just going to ignore that and go, well, no, but they're too big to go down? There is this, and I think and look, the finances wise, you can see it. You can see that there's a lot more money in the Premier League when other Glasgow teams are in there. But look, we're either legit about this or we're not. I think probably that was the biggest thing and I think there was also that, of course, we'll be allowed back in and everything, and it's and probably the biggest thing for me was, and you look back on the Celts for Change stuff, and you see, we were having boycotts. We could see it coming. We could, right, how can we take the club back? And look, and I know a lot of people have bagged Fergus over the years. I personally think there should be a stand named after him because he came in, he wrote a cheque when other people that would talked a good game. He physically wrote a cheque and put his money on the line. Did exactly what he said. Left with a nice bit of change, but a nice profit. But he was a businessman. He was in to do it, and that's where, as I said, I personally think at least part of a stand should be named after him and everything. And I think that was probably one of the big things for me with that they didn't. I suppose they didn't. I didn't see them. I saw some reaction, but I didn't see the stand in the street and try and cause change. And I've still not really seen a lot of that yet either. But yeah, so I don't know. That's my opinion, boys. So I'll get off my soapbox now.
Not at all. No, it's good. It's good comment, Martin, because I think you touched on this a little bit earlier about would it be allowed to happen, and would they be let back in? And I think, see, if those events happened a few years ago, there's no doubt at all in my mind that they would have been allowed back into the SPL somehow. But see, because of the strength of social media now and fan power, and I'm not just talking about the Celtic fans here, because if it was only the Celtic fans that were against it, they would still have got in. It's because all the other fans of all the other clubs just basically told their clubs via all the different platforms we've all got as fans nowadays to say, no, wait a minute here, you're not on. It's integrity we've got to go on here. It's not, don't think about the dollars or the pounds, sorry. Think about the integrity of the game. So I honestly think if this happened 10 years ago, they would have still been in the SPL.
I actually agree with you there. I think it was. But look, and it's one of those where I actually think, and I may get shot down in flames, but I think there came the point where Rangers fans went, you know what? We want to go down to third division.
I think you're right. I think some of them did, yeah. They wanted to take their medicine.
And I think it was that, you know what? Right, you want to put us down, bugger it, we'll keep going. We'll come back ourselves. And look, I think good. Not quite good on them for that. But I don't think Scottish football had to keep them somewhere. And I think, everybody wouldn't have. It would have been a bad taste in everybody's mouth to just parachute them back in. Certainly the Premier League and even the first division sort of thing.
Yeah.
Though I do think the first time we play them in a cup game will be interesting.
Yes, if it happens.
And actually, that was probably my one surprise from last year, that I thought we would, within a couple of months, have seen a cup draw where we get put against, and I'm actually surprised. And I think it probably shows it is more legitimate than we thought for years.
Did you think that the furry ball would have come in at one stage, or the square ball?
I actually thought
one of the cup competitions.
I think they would. I actually thought, I'll be honest, I thought they would, because then could have sold that in the TV rights and everything. And but yeah, so
I loved when they played Dundee United up at Tanadice in the cup, and they thought they were going there to to deal them a blow, and they get absolutely gobbed. 1-0 down in the first minute or something, remember? And then
Was that Jackie
a
Mike
3-0 humping.
Was that his first game in charge?
I think it was, yeah, sure it was.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you're right. I think you're right. That was hilarious as well. But anyway, we're not here to talk about them, but we love to wallow in their misery.
Aye, and it's an hour and 20 minutes gone and we're still in December.
Yep, come on, right, move it, let's do shift on.
We're moving
Who's
into
January?
January. But see, just before we move into January, I'm going to tell you, boys, did you know this? See Heineken? Heineken has got an iconic green glass and it's now embossed. It's pleasing to the touch, improves grip and encourages you to hold the bottle lower down to help keep the beer colder for longer.
It's astounding, isn't it? It's a beautiful product. It's a beautiful product.
That's Heineken we're talking about there. Heineken lager beer, premium quality. Right. So anyway, have you heard anything from them yet, Pat?
No.
What about anything from Maserati?
Definitely nothing from Maserati.
I checked Twitter. Nothing from Maserati yet.
No, there's nothing from Maserati.
Right,
the fish and chip shop have shown an interest though, so they've used.
Have they?
Bottle Iron Brew they can use. There you go.
Bottle Iron Brew?
Yeah.
Would they ship it over to WA?
No, it won't be Iron Brew, it's in it, it's just an Iron Brew bottle. You know, it's
right.
Put some oranges or something. Right, anyway, January, moving on.
For an Iron Brew bottle, taking it back now at the shops.
You get your 10 cents deposit out on South Australia.
Christ, it's more expensive over here, so yeah, it'll be should be worth more than 10 cents. Anyway, moving on. January, Kevin.
January. So in the Scottish Premier League, we started off with a little 1-0 home win against Motherwell. We also played Hearts at home in January. We beat them 4-1, which is always nice to do against the Jambos. We beat Dundee United 4-0 and we beat Kelly 4-1 again at home. So we had 4 home games in January. Is that correct, Pat?
Thinking so.
Goodness gracious me. But quite a few humpings in there as well, which is always nice. I'm struggling to remember them, but it must have happened, mate. You put it down, Pat, so it must have happened.
I was on holiday. I've got nothing. I really don't.
I know the 1-0 Motherwell game was the game that I attended when I was back in Scotland for my wee 3-week holiday there with the family. When I was back over Christmas and New Year, that was the one and only game I got to. So I do remember that one. It wasn't exactly exciting, but we got a win anyway, which was always a good thing. It's always nice to visit paradise when you're back. But during January as well, we had the League Cup semi-final against St Mirren, which we lost 3-2. St Mirren played really well, to be fair to them, though, in that game. We weren't on top form, that's for sure, but they were really up for it. And I think, looking back on it, it's hard to argue against their performance. They took their chances, and we didn't take all their chances, unfortunately. Now there was a friendly, Stoya Bucharest. We beat them 2-1 in España. I can't remember that in January, Pat.
Yeah, definitely. I recall it because even Callum from the Rebel podcast was there because he was back in Scotland at the time. So, and I think it was in Malaga. Rings a bell, but don't quote me on that. It was not in Malaga. It was one of these sort of resorts.
Who scored the goals?
Torremolinos? Benidorm?
I can't remember. It was on anyway. It was
Magaluf?
Definitely not Magaluf. Christ,
keep going through them. You'll get there eventually, man. Just keep shouting them out, man. Who scored? Can you remember?
Blackpool. That was it. That was the one. Yeah.
Can you remember who scored the goals?
I can.
Can't even remember the game.
No.
Samaras and Bangura scored. I remember it.
Mo Bangura. Do you know what? I do remember the goals now. I do remember them. I saw them on YouTube.
Yep, Bangura scored. So, but yes, I'll try and find out where it was because it's now bugging me.
Right, you do that in the background while I still recount January. Foster's penalty save against Motherwell. That was at... Where was that? Was that at Celtic Park? The game that I was actually at? Christ, I can't remember. Rami Gershon joined us on loan. Rami Gershon, he's away anyway.
We'll do that later. That's a bit quick. Moving on.
Talk about him. Tommy Rogic, you're a lovely boy. Signed, Patrick. You're a big fan of Tommy Rogic.
I just actually need to point this out. They're in Australia at the moment for Australian World Cup qualifiers. Right. And I was at home today, and this was this morning. I was I was sort of looking after my son and we're just messing around at home, and I fired up the computer, and the Socceroos, like he was one of the like a group of 4 or 5 doing like a bit of a press conference thing, or like a Twitter question and answer session.
Oh yeah.
And it was weird because the Socceroos and Soccer Australia and the World Game, which is on SBS, they're all publicising it, saying, you know, tweet so and so, and they had, you remember that fake address, that Tom Rogic 18 one?
Yeah, yeah.
And they were actually posting this. There was hundreds of these tweets with this Tom Rogic 18 Twitter account. And they said, you know, send your questions through to this thing. And I actually sent a question through saying, hi Tom Rogic, can you confirm that you're actually on Twitter? Yeah. Because there's this fake account, and it's like he wrote back saying, nope, I am definitely not on Twitter. It's a fake account. So if anybody out there, all those 3 or 4 people listening, Tom Rogic is not on Twitter. I repeat, not on Twitter. Do not follow that stupid Tom Rogic 18, you know, official account, because it's not true.
That came up quite a while back as well, that he definitely wasn't on there. Because
yeah,
I
but
think
you've
it was Laura Brannan from Celtic had actually said, no, it's definitely not him.
But the thing is, this is Australian like national TV station.
And they were broadcasting it out
and
there.
Soccer Australia and the Socceroos Twitter account, and you know that David Zrilich guy, he does the pundit. He was doing the same thing, and I was like, Jesus, there's some poor guy sitting in Scotland going, this is hilarious. Look at these tools.
Oh, exactly.
But yes, absolutely fake. So do not tweet.
Probably got a few more followers as well, the guy there.
Oh, no doubt. But
fair play.
I digress.
Right, anyway, so we'll talk about Tommy, your man Tam, later on. Sean Fallon passed away in January. That was pretty sad to hear and to see as well. Another Celtic great.
Well, actually, on that, I probably should have put that in for August. But that one of the, I guess, highlights of the year is the fact that he unfurled the league flag as well, which I think was magnificent. So
yeah,
touch.
That's right. Yes. Timely as well.
Timely. It was. It's a real nice touch.
Also in January, Celtic announced that Magners are going to be the new sponsor for the next 3 years. So quite pleased about that. Always like the little Irish connection, so I do.
The thing that kind of makes me laugh with that one, Kev, was it's the same company.
Aye.
Tennent's and Magners, the same company.
Same company as Blackthorn that do the other Glasgow team.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, just to me, it's just a wee bit of spin, and I think it's nice, but it's the same company.
Yeah, but it's still Magners Irish cider. But I don't need any Magners, mind you. I'm happy with my Heineken. I don't want to go against the brand.
Hold on, are we hoping that Heineken ambush market Celtic by sponsoring us?
No, I wouldn't like that to happen. No, as long as if Heineken can send me the odd carton, I don't even look for one every week or every fortnight. One a month would be fine. And if they want to send one to you boys as well, that's okay. But as long as they send one to me, I'll be happy. You can find your own sponsors for your segments.
Oh, piss off, Kev. I'm getting on board with this, man.
Are you wanting the Heineken?
I'm on board with it, mate.
Martin, do you like the Heineken?
Actually, I'm going to come out with, I don't think we should have alcohol sponsors, because I think that's a bad example to the kids.
Hey, cut. Right,
moving show. On. It's a family show, but this part of the family I'm concentrating on is the daddies.
No.
We love our Heineken.
Well, should we also then do Baby Sham for the women?
Well, maybe for next season we can do a Baby Sham gig, but no, it's all about Heineken now. Anyway, we'll get back on to January. We're finishing this off. Sammy did the ad. Oh, we're advertising again. Sammy does an advert for Head and Shoulders on Greek TV. I must admit, I've never seen that advert yet. I'll need to look it up on YouTube.
It's well worth it. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I'm telling you, it's brilliant.
Oh dear, it's terrible.
I actually think he should get an Oscar for that acting. It's wonderful.
Does he actually say things in it, or does he just kind of shake his head? I can picture the old Head and Shoulders adverts that I used to see, the women that used to be in those adverts, and it was all slowed down, slow-mo. Shaking their long hair, and it's all sprays
Kev,
of
shut
water
up.
everywhere.
Martin's trying to explain it to you.
He's on the field, he goes down, he run out, he wash his hair, he gets up. It's something for everybody. I'm telling you, it reminds me of a young Daniel Day-Lewis.
Daniel Day-Lewis.
I'll tell you, Kev, the best bit of the lot. You know, you probably did this as a kid when you scored a goal. You know when you get your 3 kind of middle fingers, if you know what I mean, and you stick up your pinky and you stick up your thumb and you kind of shake your hand a little bit. That's what he does at the end of it. It's gold. It is just. He runs
I'll
to the
wait to
crowd
see
and,
it.
and does that. Oh Jesus, I'm doing a visual. I'm actually doing it in the house. It's really stupid because no one can see me. But yes,
Have you shown off your shiny brush teeth?
no. But what I can tell you, Kev, is that Heineken Lager beer was first brewed by Gerard Adrian Heineken in 1873. It is made of
He's a
purified
man.
water, malted barley, hops, and yeast. And in 1886, H. Elion finished the development of the Heineken A yeast, which is still used in the brewing process today. So, just thought I'd slip that in for
Thanks,
January.
Matt, because that is an education. And I actually watched a Mega Factories programme on Heineken, which actually got me into the stuff again, because I'm not usually influenced by adverts per se, but see their programme, that was the best advert they could ever do. Because if you ever get the chance to see Heineken Mega Factories on the Discovery Channel, tune in. It's brilliant. You'll get all that info there. Did you also know that as a discerning Heineken drinker, you'll notice a slight change to their unique. I'm not working for them. To their unique racetrack label. If you look closely at the Heineken label, you'll see that the rails have been opened up to give the label a more refined appearance.
Oh, they're just a class company, Kev. There's nothing.
They're a class
Right,
act, mate. So look out for that on your next bottle of
Come
Heineken.
on. Let's get to February. Come on.
Right.
Right, we're just finishing off on January. And what we're going to talk about here was, we're going back to your lovely boy, Tam Rogic. Are we expecting too much of Tom Rogic, or what can we expect from him next season?
Everything I've heard is he needs a decent pre-season under him, and all I've heard is very, very good things about him, and I think he'll do the business next year.
Do you follow the A-League at all, Martin, over here?
I do actually. I've been lucky enough to get to quite a few games and stuff, and everything. As I said, everything I've seen about him, absolute top quality, and I think he'll do the business for us. I also think it's going to be quite a culture shock. He was with Central Coast Mariners. They are a very community-based, a sort of smallish club, and to go to Celtic with 50,000, 60,000 a week is going to be a fair culture shock for him.
Yeah.
But look, I think everything I've heard, he'll do the business over there.
Yeah, he just needs a bit of a chance, and he's still a young lad. But I think he impressed on his debut, I guess. I think it was was it Inverness? Was it Inverness? He set up a goal. He did, I think that was it.
Now, boys, what I was going to ask is, how much was he about 750 or something?
600 and something, I think, from memory.
Would he be the most expensive sale ever from the A-League?
Oh God, I'm not sure now.
I think you'd have to come close if he's not.
Well, see, bear in mind that at that time, Central Coast they still are struggling financially.
Yeah.
So they were desperate to sell. So the price would have been, I'm fairly certain there'd be sort of installments and all that sort of stuff, and incentives based on number of appearances and all that sort of shenanigans. But I think they are really struggling for money. But it's a good question. I don't follow A-League closely enough, but I can't think of anyone who's been. I mean, that guy Tommy Orr, did he get sold or did he just leave?
I can't remember.
I think there's a lot of the guys just leave, or if they do, it's very much incentive based type thing. Look, I could be wrong, but and there might have been a boy that went to one of the Asian clubs or anything, but I don't remember anybody going for any sort of money type, any sort of big money.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think one of his colleagues, that guy, is it Bernie Abini? I think don't think he gets sold. I think he just went to a Belgian club or something like that. So, yep, all right. Well, that's one for the first podcast of 2013-14 season. So we'll try and find that one out. But anyway, this isn't an A-League podcast. Let me just give my piece.
Advert for Heineken.
Oh, Heineken, it's a beautiful drop, Marty. Have you tried it? It's just beautiful. Right, so anyway, my take on the Tom Rogic thing is, going by what Martin just said just now, is, are we expecting too much? Well, the comment that Martin just said is what everyone is coming out with about how, just when he gets a good close season inside, in the club, and gets his fitness and that up. Now he's still playing football at the moment for Australia, so he ain't going to get. He'll be off for another 2, 3, 4 weeks of the close season, I would suspect, because there's no way you can expect him. He's went straight from an A-League season, then straight into a Scottish football season, then straight into international games. He hasn't had a break probably in a year and a bit.
Well, you're saying he hasn't had a break, but he's not had a huge amount of game time for us.
True, but at the same time, it's one of those things you just have to, get away from it, get away for a month and that sort of stuff. The same way all the other players have. The same way Chris Commons is over in America getting, single fished, you know what I mean? So it's just, yeah. And he's a young lad as well. You don't want to sort of push these guys. And that's why I was asking the question, are we expecting too much of him? Because what Martin says is kind of what everyone's saying. And you bear in mind, the age of the guy and, the fact that he's just moved in and he's only played, probably 2, 3 games for us. Because we played against Motherwell, I think it was during a midweek game. And he played, I think the first half he played really well, maybe the first part of the first half played really well. He looked comfortable on the ball. But they just hammered him. They closed him down and they hustled and he couldn't, I don't think he could do anything right. He got dragged after about 50, 60 minutes of the game because he could not do anything right. And it's just because, maybe Motherwell potentially saw him as a threat in the game, and that's what teams are going to do if he's going to be the main sort of guy sort of pushing through and being the sort of creative impact in the midfield. Then teams will just close down on him, and how he deals with that. I mean, he's a big guy. He looks kind of strong on the ball and that sort of stuff, but you just hope he's got the sort of mentality and he's well trained.
Well, it'll be part of his learning over here as well. Part because he would have had plenty of time on the ball over here. He won't get that in Scotland. And as you said in that Motherwell game, he did. He was kind of. It was one of those games you were hoping, because you get the start in the game, you're hoping he's going to kind of stamp his mark on it. It never really worked out that way, but again, that was more to the credit of Motherwell and how they handled him and played him, rather than he had an absolute nightmare. I think it was just maybe new to him, and he will get coached at. I'm sure he will get coached at, because it happens to worse players than Tom Rogic, because I do think the boy's got talent, definitely.
Yep.
From what I've seen, the limited amount I've seen of him, but he's young, he's fit, he's physically, he's quite a tall guy as well, but he's certainly, again, he looks the type of player that can pick a pass, and he's not scared to go forward, carry the ball forward as well. So I think he's definitely a good one for the future. I just hope he hangs in there and he can improve, and he keeps learning while he's with Celtic, because it's great for us over here. Of course, we've said this in the past as well. For us Celtic fans based in Oz, it's great to see an Aussie in the Celtic team again. I know we've had a smattering of them over the years, but it's great for us over here because it does get a wee bit more exposure for Celtic over here as well, and that can only be a good thing. So anyway, will we move on to February? Martin, do you want to tackle February for us, mate?
Sure. Scottish Cup against Wraith 3-0. Up to Inverness a 3-1, and then Dundee United 6-2. Obviously in St Johnstone 1-1, and a big hump in a Dundee 5-0. Juve 3-0 at Celtic Park, and
that was disappointing. That was the FA nightmare. That one, wasn't it?
Aye, but look, I think that was one of those games that they just outplayed us. Basically, it was that simple, don't you think?
Yes, and no, I was really disappointed with our performance in that, because Juve are a good team, but as we saw in their next game, they're certainly not a great team. And again, I think if we were really on our game and we played to our capabilities that particular night, I think we could have at least been a match for them, or given them a game, put it that way. I was gutted that we get, effectively the tie was over after that game at Celtic Park, which was unfortunate. If we gave ourselves a chance going to Turin, that would have been fair enough, but I wasn't overly impressed with Juve. That's probably the biggest disappointment for me. I think if we'd have been beaten 3-0 by a world-class, outstanding team and they wiped the floor with us, then I'd have said, fair enough, you hold your hands up. But there was mistakes in that game, and we mentioned it earlier on, Effie's contribution to the first goal certainly as well. But It was just disappointing.
Look, I think it's one of those European games that you go, if you do win, you win at home, you go away, realistically stick 10 men behind the ball and hope to God that you can, maybe even steal a goal on the break or something if they get on the pressure. But let's face it, after the first game, it was all over. And,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I guess the question for February then is, was playing Effie, was that a deciding factor in the game? Or would we have done better if he wasn't playing? If someone like Charlie was playing the central defence, or even Wanyama, or one of these sort of guys?
Look, my probably thought is that we would have done better, but I still didn't see us winning it. That's my,
Well, see, I'm kind of the other side. I reckon the flight back to Glasgow in the morning of the game, and he had it was a shocking game. There's no shadow of a doubt. I reckon it was a deciding factor personally, because he firstly had a chance to score, which he wasn't even close. I'm talking in front of goal, and I think it probably was still 1-0 at the time, and then pretty much handed them. I think handed them the third goal, I think it was. Now, even if you go over there when it's 2-0...
Certainly the first goal as well, when they ran in, he just totally misjudged the flight of the ball, just dropped over his shoulder, and the boy runs in.
And it was, I personally think it was probably Lenny's worst decision since he sort of took over as coach. And I reckon if he wasn't playing, I reckon it was half a chance we could have got a result out of it. But because I agree with Kev, having watched them in both games, I didn't reckon they were up to that much. I didn't think they were a great team. They were certainly there for the take. Even when we went to, if we went to Turin, even as 2-0, there's still this little part of me that I thought we could. You're talking one goal, you sneak one goal, and you're right back in the tie. Yeah. But as you said, going over there 3-0, but not even just that, but the way that they defended against us at corners, because they obviously saw that as a strength. I defy anyone to see that happen in another football game in the world. I've got no idea how they got away with that. I am still to this day astounded by it. It was the most ridiculous piece of defending I have ever seen. It was, professional, I think is probably the way you call it, but it was, way over the top. Even to this day, how could they have got away with that? Not just once, not just twice, but multiple occasions, doing the same thing. So, anyway, vent over.
No, I think I'm sure we spoke about this on the show at the time as well, Pat, about the whole. Should they play Effie? Should they not play Effie? I think this was before the game. I think we did a show, and I think looking back at it in hindsight as well, we made the point to say that Lennon was kind of in a no-win situation, because if Ambrose didn't play and we get beat 3-0 in that game, you'd have had half the Celtic fans saying, I mean, you've got a guy that's just won the African Nations Cup, and the guy's on a high, you can't play him. You know what I mean? You'd have had your 50% would have said that, and of course we all know what happened now, and I'm sure Lenny would have just held his hands up and said, you know what, guys, I made a decision, and it was a shit decision, and I've learned from it. Maybe if those exact circumstances are the same again, I'd never do the same thing.
He didn't say that. That's the thing, though. He didn't say that. He still stood by it and said that he'd make the same decision again. So, but look, I don't want to sort of push us, but we're really over time. We're an hour and 20 minutes, and we were trying to limit this to an hour, as you can see, and we're at March. So
that's not far away. We're nearing the season end, right? I'll rattle through March then, will I?
Go for it.
So. In the Scottish League, we beat St Mirren 2-1 away. Ross County, we get beat 3-2 Ross County, remember that one? 2-0 up as well. Quite early in the game, and then how did we lose that 3-2? That's one of my fresh in the memory ones. That was disappointing. But then we went from that disappointment to a glorious victory, the 4-3 home win against Aberdeen when we were down. Again, going into injury time, and Sammy spins around, scores his wonderful overhead kick after the Head and Shoulders had done its work, probably. And that was one of those games, boys. Did you watch that one live? Did you catch it? Because that was one of those games that it was. You were on just such a high. The 4-3, just the manner of the victory and scoring at an injury time. It was just one of those great high moments in a season sort of thing.
Well, see, for me, it's kind of. it's a big game for me because I've got relatives live in Aberdeen and they're big Aberdeen supporters. So, yeah, big. It's certainly a big game for me. But it's one of those things you don't really want to tweet your relatives saying get it right up you. But it was fairly, it's the closest I've been. It was like, I think the furthest I got was unlucky. But yes, it was a fine victory. Whether it was like, I don't know, there's talk of that being goal of the season. I didn't think that was goal of the season.
Yeah.
The Samaras overhead kick. I'm not actually sure if it did get goal of the season, did it?
No, Tony Watt's got goal of the season.
So it did, yes. Even that,
yeah,
that's just for the event. I still don't think that was goal of the season. But anyway, I've got more
it was
it.
just the whole, just the victory was the great thing about it. Guys, before I move on, I know you're trying to rush us through here, Pat, to get your beddy buys, but we've got some tweets coming in from our good friend Jim Kinlan. So Jim, he first of all starts off with a good old hail lads. So hail to you, Jim. If you're listening, hopefully you are now, mate. He also says that Jackson Irvine. So Jackson Irvine's another, obviously, he's a young Aussie that's on Celtic's books just now. Jim saying Jackson Irvine's sure to give you plenty more exposure over here in the next couple of years. Fingers crossed that's true. He also then goes on to say, may well be poignant fact that Effie was dropped for the cup final with Charlie paired with Kelvin Wilson. Is Effie shot? ? He says. We've also had a tweet in from Jimmy Johnston without the E. This is Henke's chip. 62.
This is my old mate Jimmy Johnston, who I used to go to the football with.
Do you want to read this one out then?
Oh, Jimmy. So he's got he's got Green Brigade organising a tifo to beat the Barcelona one. Mm-hmm. As we speak, if Celtic rumours is right, re-loyal to Man U. Crikey. Okay, I'm on to that.
I've been looking at that. Somebody has made a comment that the new Man U CEO has just signed a new deal, so he suspects that's wrong.
Interesting.
And that's from Celtic Rumours. So that's Celtic Underground, isn't it? Celtic Rumours.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So anyway, thanks Jimmy for listening. There you go, all the way back in Airdrie, back in Win Hall. There he is, Kev,
Super.
Back in Win Hall. Win Hall Barmy Army. So good on you, Jim. So
no,
Jimmy,
that's good. Keep your tweets coming in, guys. Now that there's 3 of you listening, it's all good. Right, we'll move on because we're still in March here. But this was in terms of results again. I won't even talk about them. UFA, we get beat by them, so bugger it, 5-0 out the Champions League. Right, we'll skim past that. Now, this was something else that happened in March, guys. This was the first time I had ever heard this term used in my life. But I dare say if you were to ask any Celtic fan now, they could tell you what kettling is. And it's not when you go and you do something, putting on your cup of tea or something like that. The kettling of the Green Brigade before the match. So that happened in March, guys, and that. I think that got a lot of guys that maybe were either divided in opinion on the Green Brigade and things like that, but that certainly encouraged a lot of groundswell of support to say, oh, wait a minute here, if all the ones that are saying there's no smoke without fire and all this kind of carry on and everything that happened up until this point, but then all the stuff that came out and the footage that we maybe saw on YouTube and some of the stuff that came out after that whole kettling incident, for me there was no shadow of a doubt then that there was some heavy-handed type tactics going on by Strathclyde police in terms of the way they handled the Green Brigade.
Comment I'd make on that, Kev, is, and I do agree with you, but I think if they had actually went through the proper channels and applied for a permit, etc., and then the police had done that to them, I think the police have got no excuse. I just think if they'd done it,
gave them a bit of an out card.
Because they said, listen, this is an illegal demonstration, blah, 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 and I don't know the exact wording the police use, but you know what I'm cutting. Now, I think what the Green Brigade do are absolutely sensational and everything, but I think my personal thing was, don't give MD an excuse. If you do it and, you apply and you can say, guess what, we've applied 5 times and you've knocked us back 5 times, can you tell me why? Type thing. Look, as I said, I seen that kettling thing and I'm sitting going, really not happy with that. But as I said, my personal opinion is that they gave them an excuse by not getting basically by publicising what they were going to do, which I think they have to do. But then the police, not getting an official, I don't know if the term's permit, but you know what, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And we had Chris. Chris came on one of the shows just after it.
Right.
Chris McMonigal came on the show just shortly after it to give his kind of view, because Chris is another Celtic-based Aussie, and he was a former policeman from over there. Chris gave a good, I guess, a balanced view, because we'd heard a lot about it was all kind of the Green Brigade side of stuff and things like that, and we managed to get Chris come on. He gave us another kind of viewpoint, and I'm not saying I totally agreed with everything Chris was saying, but it was good to hear a different viewpoint from it. But at the end of the day, it was still, to me, it still just seemed a bit. I totally take your point, Martin, that should have went through the right channels, but again, just the way it was dealt with and the manner it was dealt with, I still think there was no actual threat there to merit them doing what they did, if that makes sense. Look, but anyway, we don't want to go into that big debate again.
Fair enough. Certainly not at 20 past 11 in Melbourne time.
Oh, he's past his beddy by his time, poor boy.
Right.
Come on, man up, Martin, man up.
So I guess to round off March, guys, in terms of that, the police intimidation, if we call it that, of the Green Brigade, have we seen the worst of it towards the Green Brigade now that the season's over, or are they going to actually regroup in time for next season? Is there going to be more intimidation, or have we seen the worst of it? Is it going to die out and everybody's going to love each other again after this? What do we think is going to happen into next season?
Well, I'll go on that one.
I just one first.
Yeah, I reckon. Look, the publicity for the police would not have been good. So you'd like to hope, that they do kind of scale things back, because they've obviously taken advantage of this sort of new law and all that sort of stuff in Scotland. So to sort of cut to the chase, I guess I reckon you'd hope so. But you just can never assume these things. Obviously they get rid of one or two police officers, or I think it's police officers or stewards or whatever, who were part of this focus group. They got shot of them, but apparently this guy's already rearing his head again. Intimidating the guys again, even though he was taking off, the whole thing. So
he's a clown, that guy.
Yeah, and it's just like there's obviously people with a bit of a vendetta, and that's always going to happen. As long as Celtic are playing at Parkhead, that'll always be the case. So there's going to be some people that just detest you just for who you are. Doesn't matter, it's part of their job and all that sort of stuff. So I just hope that is the end of it.
Look, the only thing I would think is, I think you're right, it was a really bad look for the police. And I would think with cameras and with social media and that, they are actually realising how badly it can come back to bite them. But I think it does work both ways for supporters as well. I think it'll probably calm down a little bit, because I just think it can also be... But I think also, if they are going to protest, I think they need to be smarter about it. I think some of the silent protests are staying away, because that's also affecting the atmosphere in the stadium, and people are going to go, listen, this place is heaving. We talk about the display at the Barcelona game, etc. So I think the club are watching, but I think also it's a hard one for the club, and I think it's a hard one for the Green Brigade, because they don't want to be backed by the club and be there then puppet type thing. But I think they both sort of need it, and there needs to be some sort of maybe even just a gentleman's agreement between them or something.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, they bring so much to the atmosphere at Celtic Park, and it does come across from half the world away over here in Oz as well, when you're watching it on Satanta, or you're watching it on your Celtic TV, or you might even be watching it on an illegal stream.
Certainly
but it definitely does come across the atmosphere. So, no, more power to the Green Brigade for next season, and I hope they keep it up, and they're even bigger and better than next season. But the wee hangers-oners maybe that get them into a bit of bother sometimes, hopefully they see sense. They're a year older and they see a wee bit more sense, and they don't give the police any excuse whatsoever to start the old intimidation stuff again. So I just hope, like you, Pat, I hope that's the end of it in terms of that side of it, but the Green Brigade just go from strength to strength. I would hate them to give up and say it's not worth it, guys, anymore, because they just bring so much to the atmosphere. So anyway, we'll move on to April. Patrick, do you want to talk us through April?
Yes, why not? So we had 3 Premier League games. We had victories against Hibs, which was 3-0 at home, Inverness, which was 4-1 at home, and we got smacked by Motherwell 3-1 at Fir Park. We had this. It was, yeah. We had the Scottish Cup semi against Dundee United, which was 4-3 in extra time. Stokesy getting the winner in extra time, which was
exciting.
I reckon that was possibly, in terms of domestic league, maybe game of the season. I thought it was a brilliant game. Just it was. I've never seen for a while anyway. Both teams just go for it. That was just really open play. Both teams just went for their. We'll score more goals than what you score. So we also had in April the really sad event, boys. The really really sad event of Dame Maggie Thatcher passing away. Oh, jeez. Yeah, that was really sad for the nation, for the Scottish nation and the world, wasn't it? Yeah. She'll be down in the pits of hell anyway, but that's another story. I don't want to get into politics. Politics is not my thing. And long may she burn.
Yes, but well said, sir.
I'm honestly not politically minded at all, but anyway.
Well,
so
that goes to show you how evil that woman was then, if she can actually influence you to hate her so much and you're not even very political.
Yeah, I'm not.
Shows you how
politics,
she
it bores me,
mate.
but
she was the div personified.
Politics, let's move on. So against Inverness,
Maggie Thatcher, milk snatcher. Right,
boys, did you hear the thing the other day when it was at the '89 Cup final when she was there and she was getting excused, and it was they turned to I think the Scottish minister at the time and she went, "What are they saying?" And he said, "They're saying, Maggie, we wish you good luck."
Oh, I'd rather get
Hampden at that point, and I'm certain there's a lot of people not saying luck to her, but I thought that was a hell of a save by him.
That's a good point. I remember it was Big Roy Aiken was the captain.
Roy Aiken was, yeah.
Presenting the trophy. We all had the old red cards for Maggie.
We did, and
show Maggie the red card.
There was a Frank McAvenny line that he thanked her because she brought down the tax rate, and he was quite happy with that.
Oh, I would have been.
Frankie boy. Right, so against Inverness, we obviously clinched the Premier League title at that day. So, and also we had the joyous events of having to wait 50 minutes for Lenny to come down the steps.
That's right, yeah.
Which was quite amusing with the countdown clock. I don't know if you recall that one, but that was quite funny. And also in April, we had the £100 reduction, the announcement of £100 reduction in season tickets.
Ah, yeah, that was definitely well received.
And I guess the question we have for April then, and we do want to try and hurry it up a little bit, is the £100 reduction the greatest gesture ever by a Celtic board? Because I can't think of any other gesture.
Well, yeah, they don't give many gestures, so it quite possibly is. Quite possibly is.
Look, so I actually think as a winner now, they are trying to get some more people into the stadium. I think it's good that they are, encouraging kids to come in, and they brought back, I think, the cheaper season book, and I think. I think there isn't that many great gestures by them, but I think they need to be applauded for this because they've taken the bull by the horns. And look, I think also they've done the numbers and they've made enough money that they can take a punt at this. Now, there's a way of spinning it of, well, the stadium was half empty. The stadium wasn't half empty. If you look at even the stats out this week, I think there was 4,000 people less on average there. So realistically, when you take some of the bigger games and average those out, then the sellout games against other Glasgow clubs, that's probably on average anyway. And look, I think the thing is the club's done something about it. It would have been easier for them to say we're putting the prices up, and enough people would have still bought it. So I think good on them. Yeah,
no, totally agree with that, Martin. Totally agree. Yeah, it probably is. Probably is the greatest gesture ever by a Celtic board. But hopefully they'll if it's successful for them, which by all accounts it's going quite well anyway.
Yeah, that's the word on the street is. Yeah, that they're.
Yeah. Boys, have you heard? I heard this about one of the stands was going to be sharp, but what I've now heard is that's going to be turned into a proper family section thing. Have you heard any more about that?
I know there's definitely stuck because it's the old section that I used to have my season ticket in. Martin was block 411. and I think they're turning that into a bit of a kind of family type section thing. There was also talk as well about them trying to go down the avenue of getting a standing section and stuff like that as well. But I don't know if that's happened. But I definitely know if my old man, he's in block 411, and he got the letter from Celtic to say that they were going to relocate him, so could he come in and choose a new seat and stuff like that.
So, Kev,
happening.
Is that the upper, the old Rangers end?
Yeah, it's the Lisbon Lions.
Yeah.
Lisbon
So,
Lions.
see the bit, if I recall, and this is probably a month or so ago, is what they were doing is they were moving season ticket holders out so that it could be a section where you just roll up. That's where you pay. That's where you go on the day. So it keeps basically all the season ticket holders together. I think the family section was a different section.
Oh, maybe that's it then.
Oh.
But I know. Whatever they're doing, it's affecting section or block 411 anyway. So it's the block that's immediately above the corner flag in the upper stand at the Lisbon Lions.
Well, I don't know if it's the whole section, but I think basically that whole rear section of the Rangers end was, again, if I haven't read anything since then to contradict it, but that was going to be the area. If you turn up on a match day and buy a ticket, that's where you end up. Because there's no way you could have that whole section as a family section. It's just too big.
Yeah.
Right. What I heard was that part of it was going to be, I think there's some bookies in there, and they were going to try and remove them so that the family section was. And again, that's why I'm asking. That's what I'd heard, but I don't know how factual that was. But I'd heard it was.
Well, there's definitely bookies, and there was Ladbrokes in block 411 anyway. That's for sure. So they were definitely there. So that might be right enough, man. But I mean, block 411 isn't. It's not massive. Block 411 was, oh God, I wouldn't even know how to describe it. I don't know, 20, 30 seats long. But you're going down into an apex sort of thing. So at the back, we sat in the second row from the very back. So there's maybe about 30 seats there at the top, but then it goes down into a triangle because it's going down to maybe just about a handful of seats down at the very front row of the section, if you know what I mean. So I mean, it's not a massive section, block 411. He's maybe got a couple of thousand in it or something.
Well, looking at Kevin Devine on the chat room, who's actually said that what he believes it is, it's the top 12 rows in the upper tiers is being closed on the whole stadium, not even just that one section, but the whole thing. So that'll be interesting. And Kevin's also said that, just talking about the prices, that because he's a parent-child ticket holder, his actually season ticket went up by £50. So
has went up.
Yeah.
How was that? But did his kid reach a certain age or anything?
I don't know. I'd reckon, and I'd heard this on Homeboys as well, that depending on what sort of ticket you had, it's potentially the price of the ticket could actually go up. And Kevin's just confirming that. So I think it was a case of you had a family ticket, then it impacted the prices in one way. But if you had an adult and a child ticket not on the same sort of account, then something like that, you end up paying more, or maybe vice versa. So yeah, it was kind of odd. I think not everyone's obviously benefiting from the £100. So keep that one in mind as well. So it is a good deed, but maybe not everyone's coming out better off. So right, again, let's move on. May, who wants to do May? Final one, Kev.
No, let Martin go for it here. Take us out in a hive, and with May, Martin, on you go.
All right, fair enough. Then the Ross County 1-1 draw, but realistically at that point, the league was won. We'd already clinched it. Obviously St Johnstone 4-0 at home, and Dundee United 4-0 there. Scottish Cup final with a 3-0 win over Hibs. Sammy gets Player of the Year, and Watt gets Young Player of the Year. Probably one of the, and I'll go to the Celtic getting permission to demolish the London Road School and the Celtic Triangle. I think that's actually looking really, really smart from the stuff I've seen. A couple of other things that I totally rate was obviously 10 years anniversary of Seville, and the Celts for Change honoured with a plaque. I think that has to be given a lot more kudos in the history of the club. As I said, boys stood up and stopped us going to administration. A couple of the weird ones is obviously Lenny fined five grand for swearing, and then the rumours of him going to Everton. So quite a big month in May. So what do we think, boys? Well, I suppose first things first on the thing. Will Lenny be around for 10 in a row?
I'll let you go first on that, Pat, because you can probably guess my answer.
I think if he didn't get the Everton job, which obviously he hasn't, I think Martinez is that kind of confirmed that he's going to?
Yeah, I think he's got that now, Martinez.
I just reckon, like, he's not going to get a Man U, he's not going to get a Liverpool or an Arsenal or any of these sort of clubs. Once you're outside that sort of group, I don't think you're really going to get any better. If he'd gone to one of those clubs, and I reckon Everton was probably the lowest of those clubs that would probably have interested him, I just can't see him going to a Hull or a Swansea or anything like that. So whether he's with us for 10 in a row, well, that's really up to him. Depends how much he can take. But yeah, I don't see him leaving in a hurry. I think the Everton job probably would have interested him, and I wouldn't have been surprised or even disappointed if he'd gone there, because I reckon it's for him it's a good move. But now that that's kind of gone, yeah, I just don't see how you get the same thrill further down the English league. So
it's funny because he's been kind of hinting at that in a few. I saw his interview that he did in Dublin for the Liverpool friendly that's coming up in August, and he was alluding to the fact that he was kind of talking about Anthony Stokes, I suppose, and some of the players that are maybe wanting away just now, and he was kind of talking about that. I think because it was in Ireland, they were mentioning about Liam Miller and stuff like that when he went away, and he mentioned the fact that sometimes a lot of players, when they're at Celtic and they've done well at Celtic and they move on, it's kind of the grass. They thought the grass was going to be greener elsewhere, but they have admitted in hindsight it was maybe the wrong thing to do, because they were maybe idolised at Celtic or they were doing really well, and then their career fell away when they left, sort of thing. So he was kind of saying that himself, and I'm wondering just what you're saying there, Pat. I totally agree with what you're saying. Everton is the kind of level of club I would think that you could have seen him maybe going to, and Everton would have been interested in him. I totally agree. I don't think Lenny would want to go to a lower kind of Premier League club to try it out. I don't think that would appeal to him. But just in what you were saying there as well, I wonder if there's part of that. Lenny's kind of convincing himself that, you know what, the grass sometimes could be seen to be greener elsewhere, but it's sometimes better the devil you know, and he's as well hanging about. And let's face it, see if he could be there for us to do 10 in a row. There could be a very realistic chance that we could do this. What a kind of honour that would be if he is the manager that sees us right through that whole period, and he was the guy to do it. It's a little bit away yet, but is his head going to be turned by other offers elsewhere? Is he going to stick around? Will the club sack him in the future? Who knows? My thoughts, and again, people listening to this regularly will know my thoughts. I'd love to see him stay around, so long as he's still got the same attitude and he can still get the best out of some of the players. But again, just because he's totally ingrained in Celtic and it's the club he loves and all the rest of it, that's stuff that you just can't get from some other managers that are out there. So I would love to see him hang around and stay there. I hope he does. He turns into a kind of Arsene Wenger or a Fergie, and he's there for as long as he wants to be there, I suppose. What do you think yourself, Martin, in the Lenny situation?
I think it's a bit in a. I'm really torn on this one. One of my comments was, and we spoke about this. I spoke to a couple of boys about this a while ago. When Martin O'Neill left us, I think he was at least one of the favourites to take over the Man U job eventually when Fergie stepped out. Right? I think right. He'd done some decent stuff in Europe. Right? He's now when Fergie announced it, he wasn't even considered for the job, because realistically he went through he hadn't really done the business at Villa, and he certainly hadn't done it at Sunderland. That's probably my only thing, is there's a point where is Lenny at us for too long, or does he move to the? And I think he would have to be moving to the right job. I think you're right. Does he want to go to a Leicester? Does he want to go to a Hull? Probably not. That's probably, I think, for the right thing. Would he go? Look, I think, and there's also that point of, and I think Pat might have mentioned this before, there's that point of, does he need to hassle anymore? I'll be honest, does he for $5,000 for swearing? Does he need to be attacked in the street? Does he, let's go back and I think probably out of all the hassle he's had, the thing that I found most disappointing was there should have been much more uproar. Like, I'll be honest, there should have been, right, one more thing happens, every league manager in Scotland has gone on strike.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I'm telling you right now, he is attacked in the street. Everybody, we are not going to stand for this sort of thing. And that just doesn't, and I think that's probably my only thing. Look, I'd love to see him stay, and one of the reasons I'd love to see him stay is I don't think there's that many, I don't think there's MD that you go, a bit like, the Martin O'Neill thing, I'd love to go O'Neill. I don't think there's MD out there when we got O'Neill. I don't think there's MD out there that you go, I'd love him to come.
That's a good point, actually, because there's been times, you're right, there's been times in the past when you think, there's such and such a manager's coming available, and you think, I'd love him at Celtic, but you're right, there's nobody that's in our league now, sort of thing, that you could think.
I was going to say, if you look at it, to me, off the top of my head, and who we looked at, when Lenny was coming in, Lambert ain't leaving Villa unless, I'll be honest, unless he's sacked. Maybe on Coyle now that he, I think it was at Bolton, get rid of him. I can't remember which team. Mm-hmm. Maybe only a Jackie McNamara, but really Jackie needs to do a nice 3 or 4 year apprenticeship doing well at Dundee United before he comes. So who else is there? And maybe we go Continental, any of those things. But I actually think, and this is just a total personal opinion, but I think even if you look down south, who's the young managers coming through? One of the, I think the hassles is you get young managers retiring from the Premier League and want a Premier League job straight away. They're not willing to go and do an apprenticeship of a second division team, so that the fourth
Wycombe Wanderers or something like that.
To be honest, my opinion on that is that they can sign a couple of big name boys that are their mates, and that even if they screw up coaching wise in the first couple of years, they can go, right, boys, rattle it in and we'll win the league anyway, or we'll do all right, we won't get you relegated. And they get to cut their teeth on some stuff like that, where realistically, the amount of, and especially if you look at England players who have come in and tried to coach at either Championship or Premier League teams almost straight away, and it basically burns them and they can't get another job, sort of thing. So that's probably my biggest thing is if Lenny was to go, who would take over, and there is MD. But I do think there is that point, and also, and God knows what he's on at Celtic, but some of the money that Moyes was getting and the managers down there are getting, there must be that point where, like, I think he'll be well rewarded by Celtic, but there's well rewarded and there's Premier League well rewarded. So I don't know, but look, I'd love to see him go. I also do think, and although I did ask the question, 10 in a row is very, very hard to do. Yes. We need to, and maybe I'm sounding like a manager now and should go and put a sheepskin jacket on, but we need to take one season at a time.
Oh, yes. No, you're right. You're right. It is. It's let's face it, guys. It's still a long way away yet. But again, with what's happened to that other team and the new team that's come in and stuff like that, hopefully they go the same way as Gretna. But
also on top of that, it is that. And look, this is where I think what hasn't been shown is stuff like Motherwell played some decent stuff this year. I think it's too easy to go, guess what, Celtic romped the league. Well, we'd also romped it previous years when, as I said, other Glasgow teams were in the league. But on top of that, I actually, we've just done the year in review. Don't get me wrong, some of those defeats that we've talked about that actually you reminded me of, I'm going, oh Jesus, I forgot about that. Yeah. But you know what? I don't think that's the worst thing either.
No.
I think
it's not.
And look, I think, and probably one thing we've not sort of talked about is the farce of the restructuring of the league, and just how so many fans want other things, and they're just, the league just doesn't seem to be wanting to give it. And I think
shoehorning it in, yeah.
And to me, most fans want, I think, 16 or 18 teams in it and play each other twice, and the SPL, whoever's in charge, doesn't want that. But look, as I said, that's what I think anyway. So yeah.
Oh, it's all good, Pat. I do notice though on your extensive and excellent notes for us this evening, You have missed out one final ingredient. Oh no, you haven't. You've got the Scottish Cup final in there. Sorry, mate.
have,
I was
yeah,
looking
yeah.
at the end.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Die.
Oh, did we
Because
win the
haven't
Scottish
really
Cup, did we?
talked about that, because that's how we did. We won the Scottish Cup, didn't
Did
we?
we? Oh, brilliant, huh?
We skimmed over that. We skimmed over that very quickly. But what did you catch the game? Because I haven't spoken. Well, I haven't spoken to you, Pat, since then. I certainly haven't spoken to you about it, Martin. But the Scottish Cup final, did you both catch it?
Actually, I didn't. I had a work trip the next morning at 7 o'clock at the airport. So
No
I
excuse.
had to. Well, do you know? In my younger days, I would have went straight from the pub to the airport and been absolutely brand new. But this old body just couldn't hack it, basically. So no.
I had we had a nice little night in our little pub, Friar Tuck's, where we watched it, and there was quite a good crowd of us down for the season finale. And but you know what it's like though. It's as you're kind of saying there as well, Martin. When you've got work the next day, that was the thing that I wasn't happy about, the game being on the Sunday. Scottish Cup final on a Sunday because of the Champions League final on a Saturday. But I hope that doesn't happen again, because to me the Scottish Cup final's got to be a Saturday. But anyway, but I still had a few nice pints and things like that. And I haven't even mentioned this up until now, but Patrick, if you recall, when we were doing the predictions in the show prior to the final, I do believe that I predicted the famous Glasgow Celtic would win by the comfortable margin of 3-0. And I actually think I did say that not only would it be 3-0 scoreline, but I did say it would be one of those comfortable games, comfortable performances and all that. And sure enough, it turned out. And because I convinced myself so much, I never stuck a bet on with the bookies, would you believe? But that's what I did in our little sweep thing with the supporters club. So I won the money on it as well, because I've got the time of the last goal.
It was a fix, an absolute fix. So you're in the club and you win the money. I hope you donated it back to the club though.
Well, you know what? I didn't.
Oh,
I thought, no,
Jesus.
bugger it. You know what? I'm just going to take this out here just now.
That's a disgrace.
I should have, but would anybody else have, Pat? No, they wouldn't have. They'd have taken it, and that would have been that. So I thought, no, bugger it. I've spent enough here. This will help get my taxi home. in the end, see, the thing was, because where the pub is, it's about a 20-minute drive from where I live in Mandurah, and so I'm north side in Mandurah, and that's way down the south bit. So it's about 20 k's, whatever that is in old money. But we were waiting. It was brilliant. We had a great laugh. We had a good wee sing song, and we had the tunes on and blah blah blah. But so coming out after it, we were waiting on the taxi, and there was quite a group of us. So there was a few people get picked, lifts and stuff like that, and get picked up. So that was fine, but there was a group of us that we were needing 2 taxis to take the rest of us. So a taxi came fairly quickly, and a load of the ones that was a bit closer, they jumped in first, they buggered off. And then there was 5 of us left for the next taxi back. And we waited an hour, mate, and still no taxi. So it ended up, the boy that owns the pub, he ended up dropping us off, would you believe? But the guy that lives furthest away is about half an hour away, and he took this is the completely wrong direction as well. This boy, Ray's his name, Ray O'Hanrahan. He's from County Cork. I'll give him a shout out. He'll never ever hear this ever, but he's the boy that owns Friar Tuck, and he's a great guy. He's looked after us quite well since we've been in his pub. But we do put a few quid behind the bar, it has to be said. But fair play to him that night. He dropped us all home, off at the doors, and did the taxi run, and he did it for nothing, mate, which was very, very kind of him. As I said, we probably spent a few grand behind the bar right enough, so that was okay. That was okay for him. But anyway, that was our Scottish Cup final, and yes, 3-0 glorious victory, predicted by Big Kev.
Well, I think I predicted an at best scenario for Hibs of 2-0. So when it was actually sitting at 2-0, I was sitting there going, that's pish, that's rubbish. We should have flipping smashed this mob, but it was comfortable. I reckon we had 2 gears to go up.
Yeah.
I reckon we just looked so.
It was comfortable, wasn't it? It was.
Yeah.
It was, and that was what was brilliant about it. It wasn't one of those nail biting kind of games or anything. And sometimes they're okay in their own merits when you look back on them. But I wanted that just to be a nice. Let's enjoy ourselves here. Let's do the double without any any worries, and it just went totally to plan.
Yeah, I mean if Doyle had scored that header early on, it could have been very different. But look, in terms of our club, we had, I've got to say, we had one of the best nights I've had in years. It was hilarious.
You had this was the retro.
Yeah. Oh, retro
night.
That was all right. There was probably a dozen of us turned up in an old retro tops, but
So what one did you wear?
I ended up going with the most controversial one with the orange people's logo on the front.
Oh yes,
which it was either that or the Bumblebee, the original Bumblebee.
Yes.
And I gave my wife the choice, and she said, "No, go with the hoops," which just fitted no more. So it didn't fit by the time I got home after several pints. But anyway, that's another story. So, but Martin will know a good friend of ours is young Clinton McCrohan. So he's a Melbourne, well, he's an Australian lad. So he's Celtic fan. He's born and bred in Australia. Never ever been to a Celtic game, but as much of a diehard as anybody is. And sure enough, he's walked in, took off his like a sweatshirt and stuff like that, and he's got the people's top on as well. I was thinking, you bastard. I thought I was going to be the only person, but no. He had to go and ruin it for us. But we had Melbourne's answer to the Green Brigade, so the guys at the back of the pub, my God, what a laugh it was. There was, I'd say probably in total, we had probably 80, 90 people, or something like that in the
brilliant.
pub.
That's
yeah,
great.
That's just a guess. It might have been more or less, but if I was guessing, that's what I'd say.
Was Stevie Fallon's out and about?
He was. He turned up, young Stephen. So we had a few beers, and we did the club donated a signed Celtic top for a raffle, and we raised around $400 for the Kano Foundation, which was absolutely magnificent. So. And out of that $400, there was Chris McMahon down in Geelong. He donated $100 to that. So.
Excellent.
And I am a really bad salesman, but Sean Fitzgerald made me sell the raffle tickets because I was kind of pushing for the Kano and that sort of stuff. But between Stevie Fallon's and myself, just going around people, so we ended up got a bit of money for them. But I have to give credit to Melbourne's answer to the Green Brigade. Those guys were absolutely magnificent. They were singing from an hour before the game to half an hour. They ended up they just turned the TV off because we were all still there. Yep. It was what a night it was. I was host for about 3 days after it, so absolutely brilliant.
Were there a few locals in as well that were just going in for a quiet little drink on a Sunday night?
Our pub on a Sunday night is not quiet.
Did you take it over?
No, we had our own section in the pub, so they kind of cornered off sort of the back of it, which is it's kind of like on 2 levels. So it's just one screen right enough, but. The normal sort of punters, they drifted off to their nightclubs and stuff, so we hung around there and sung into the early hours. It was a top night, so fair dues to the Melbourne Green Brigade. So Jockstein and CSC guys were in fine form. It was brilliant. So I had a really good night. And I was pissed as well, but not that I'm promoting that because I don't really like saying that, but yeah, it's the most I've drank.
Were you drinking Heineken, Pat?
Oh yeah, it was. Was it Heineken? I have no idea. Yeah, it was Heineken. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and it was beautiful, Kev. It's a beautiful drop.
You're drinking Buckfast.
That's mate.
Oh, jeez, you're having a laugh when you touch your stuff. Anyway, moving on because we have been here for a while. So, Scottish Cup night, fantastic. More of the same Celtic next year. Thank you very much.
Yes.
On a Saturday night this time.
Yes, on a Saturday night, hopefully. Right. We've been going for 2 hours and 5. I was going to say.
No, really?
2 hours and 5 minutes here, guys. So I'm thinking we just wrap it up here. You've got some other wee bits and bobs on, but I reckon we just wrap it up and let poor Martin get to his beddy bags. Seems it's nearly coming. He's going to turn into a pumpkin in 9 minutes' time.
Well, I just reckon there's one slight subject, and that was the Johnny Russell thing, because you are so not for Johnny Russell signing for us.
But you haven't heard my thoughts on the matter. So
right, are they brief?
No,
thoughts,
see, you're not quite correct with what you're saying there, but I'll say my piece. You say your piece, and then I'll say my piece.
I just reckon
in fact, no, you say your piece. Let's hear Martin's piece, and then I'll say my piece.
I just reckon if the figures are correct that are coming out, I reckon he is absolutely worth a punt on signing up because.
Worth a punt, Miku Lasad style.
I think there's much less of a risk than Miku or Lasad, without any shadow of a doubt. I reckon if they're talking, and the figures of the punting at the moment are 750k. If that's the figures, then sorry, I'd be signing the guy up. He is young. He's very enthusiastic. He's not
Coatbridge lad.
He's a Coatbridge. He's not like an actual sort of instinctive goal scorer like Hooper is, but he's a good goal scorer.
That's a very interesting point you've made there, and that's one I shall pick up on.
Yep, and I reckon, but he has the potential to be better, and I reckon with better players around him, which he would get at Celtic Park, I reckon he would do far, far better than even what he did at Dundee United, and I think he's been a great player for United. I know you'll probably slag me off because you know I've got a bit of a soft spot for Dundee United, having been when I was growing up, they were a good team to watch, even when I was a little boy, but they are a good team with him, and I reckon he's a great goal scorer. He'll be a big loss for them for that next year, but he's proven he can score in the Premier League. He's still young. He's not even close to reaching his peak yet. So I would say if you're talking 750k, sign here, buddy. End of rant.
Martin, what do you think?
Look, I think if that's the sort of figure you're talking about, 750, I'd certainly take him. He's a Celtic man. I think he knows the score, where at times you can have players come from overseas and either be and look, I think being a Celtic fan can also be a hindrance to you because you get overawed playing for the club that you love. But to me, 750, realistically, we sign him, good couple of year deal. If it doesn't work out, move him on. You're probably still going to get maybe 750 if you send him down south. Now, one of the things, and I'm just checking Twitter, is Jim Spence from the BBC has said Derby are confident of landing him and expect to have him penciled into the first 11 every week. And there is a rumour that Dundee United are trying to get Good Willie back again, which I'd be amazed if they could actually afford that. Look, to me, I'd take him. I'd take a punt on him, have the right deal. That look, he's going to earn much more at Celtic or Derby than he is at Dundee United. You have it set right, and part of it is, and I think Celtic need to push this more. Do you want to be, do you want to be a legend? Do you want people to be? And I know, or I believe Celtic have been doing this with players where, so if you take, say, Alan Thompson before there was a falling out, but you take Alan Thompson and it's like you've got a choice. I'm a certain Alan Thompson can go into most pubs. He was a Villa boy for quite a few years. Going to pubs in Birmingham, nobody's going to know about him. He goes into probably half the pubs in Glasgow and he'll never have to buy a drink and be treated very, very well. So, look, I would take a punt on him. If it doesn't work out, I'm certain we can sell him on, as I said, down south, etc. And it's like a lot of these things, it all comes down to the deal. And what I was going to ask then about Stokes and about Stokes rejecting, what did we think about that? So maybe we can come to that quickly after the Russell thing. Your comments, Kev?
Yeah, we'll come on to that right enough, Martin. But yeah, my Johnny Russell thoughts are, I do think he's a good player, but again, I describe him and a whole barrel of other good SPL players as being just that. And I do account Johnny Russell in this. And I agree with what Pat's saying. 750 grand is worth a punt to get him in, but I would honestly see him as being another squad player. The reason that I don't like his being linked with these good SPL players is because I still think we are capable of getting better, and there are better out there in other leagues, because I don't think the SPL is a great league by any manner of means. We're the best of a bad lot. I am always much more, I guess, motivated by us getting linked with players from some better leagues in Europe, and even some of the old Eastern Bloc kind of countries and things like that as well. I'm always intrigued to see if we would be linked with some, a guy that's breaking into the Polish bloody national team where he's got X amount of caps for Poland and stuff like this, or Bulgaria or whatever it may be. Because I think these guys have kind of proven themselves in technically better leagues. Now, I honestly believe the majority of European leagues are technically better than the SPL. A number of them are. So that's why seeing these players that we kind of know, and we know what their abilities are, but to me, I just want Celtic to be showing a bit more ambition. They've got scouts They have got a scouting network. All we can see is what you see the odd bits and bobs at different teams on whether it's on Sky Sports and whether it's on Fox, or you see the odd European games. We've got guys that are employed full time to be casting their net all over the bloody world. So these guys must be able to look further afield in the SPL. So it's not necessarily a pop at just Johnny Russell himself or the Gary Mackay-Stevens of this world and stuff like that. I just think there's better players that are out there than these guys, that if we just showed a wee bit more ambition or a wee bit more nous, we could bring them in. The likes of Victor Wanyama, the likes of Lubomir Moravcik. I know that Lubo, we got him at the tail end, and if it wasn't for bloody Joe Venglos, Lubo would never have came to Celtic. But I just think it seems to me as if there's more and more of us are accepting that we can't deal in any other markets other than the SPL or the bloody Championship in England. Sure, and I think that's just pish.
I agree that we should be putting our net wide. I will ask you this. Would you have thought Charlie Mulgrew was just another SPL player when we signed him? And he seems to have worked out. Now, again, there'll be 1,000 against him. I totally agree. Sorry, mate. I totally agree that we should be looking globally for it. But I think also if there's a player on, and again it comes down to the deal, there's a player on our doorstep that we think can do the business for us, is it time? And remember, he's not a Scott Brown at 2, 3, 4 million type thing. A player that's sitting going 750 as the right deal. But yeah, and what do you think? Sorry, of the Charlie Mulgrew thing?
The Charlie Mulgrew, see, I really liked Charlie Mulgrew before we even bloody sold him, to be honest. I thought Charlie Mulgrew was coming through and breaking into the team quite well, and I was quite disappointed to see him go. Now, when Mulgrew was a player that hurt us quite regularly when he was with Aberdeen, so was I delighted that we were signing him? I wasn't punching the air with delight, but I thought, no, he can take a bloody free kick. They were the things you thought about Charlie Mulgrew. So it was the same. And this is what I'm saying. Don't get me wrong, guys. If we do sign Johnny Russell, I'll say fair enough. But it's just the level of ambition in going for players. If that's the kind of market we're in, I'd be worried if that's the kind of market we're just looking at, or we think the only types of players that we can sign are from the SPL or the English Championship. That's one of the things. But the other thing about Johnny Russell is I've seen a lot of people putting, whether it's on Celtic Quick News or on Twitter or on Facebook or whatever the hell it could be, or some of the other blogs that are out there, this kind of notion that he'd be a great replacement for Hooper. Now, I cannot see that at all. To me, they are two totally different players. Hooper is an out-and-out goal scorer. He plays in the penalty box. He's a poacher. From what I've seen of Johnny Russell, he's not a penalty box striker as such at all. He comes deep. He looks for it deep. He'll maybe link play. And don't think I'm saying he's not a good player. I think he's a great player. But would he dramatically improve our team? And even taking the points you made earlier on, Pat, that if you put a good player in a better team, you'll become a better player, I'd say. I would agree with that, but he's not going to be a standout in a Celtic team. I think he'd come in and he'd be a bit of a squad player. I would see him as being one of these guys that would probably play. He's not an out-and-out striker, so he'd be playing maybe off the front pair or behind a front man, linking the midfield, or maybe even hovering about just in front of the midfielders or something. But would he be able to dislodge anybody in my preferred starting Celtic lineup right now? No, I wouldn't put him in the team. And I want guys that come into Celtic that are going to knock out the likes of a Baram Kayal or a Wanyama. If he hangs about, I doubt he will, but I want us to be signing guys that are automatically into the first team. I don't want us to be signing just squad players for the sake of it. Anyway, that's my soapy boxy bit on him. And that'll be the same. And it's not just a Johnny Russell thing. That's my view on any of these kind of SPL type players we do get linked with. I think our ambitions have lowered without us having to lower them, if that makes sense. I don't think we're in the position we really have to be lowering them that bad. to again just be looking at that kind of SPL English Championship type market, because that's what you hear all the time. And whether that is just the old Scottish mainstream media that's telling us that, or whether it's Lenny's telling us that, or something else, or whether our scouts can't be arsed going and trying to dig up another Victor Wanyama somewhere. These guys are definitely out there. They've got to be out there. And I would just love us to be in the market for these guys rather than the guys that we know, we see them playing every weekend or whatever it may be. And are they going to improve our team? I'm not so sure. Anyway, enough of that.
Yeah, enough of that.
Right.
It's now past the witching hour in Melbourne.
Yep. Pumpkins
Have
everywhere.
any of you turned into a pumpkin yet?
Yeah.
Are we wanting to do the should they stay or should they go quickly then?
That'll take too long.
All right.
That's
for
time
next
for
year.
his bed. That's time for his bed. No, listen, we might as well wrap it up, guys. But it's been a nice little show this evening. Have you enjoyed it, Martin? Thanks for coming on, mate.
I have enjoyed it. It's been good.
Has it flown in as if it's only been like half an hour ago since we started, but really it's 2 hours, 15 minutes ago?
Nah, it seems like 5 hours and sort of almost like root canal, to be honest. Nah. It's been good, boys. It's been good. And I have actually remembered some stuff more than I suspected to at the start of the call.
I know, I must admit, I was quite impressed, mate. You put yourself down a little bit before we came on air, but no, you've done well, mate. Listen, before we do wrap it up as well, I'm going to give good old Jimmy Kinlan a couple of more shout-outs because he sent a few more tweets in, and he's always a good, faithful contributor. He said last year Champions League qualification was rightly said as being imperative for us, but more so this year. I think we'd probably agree with that, Jim. As our player valuations rises, will we lose most of them if we do fail to qualify? The transfer window doesn't close until later on, of course. So yeah, that's a fair point, Jim. Predicting, this was, I guess, in relation to the 10 in a row thing, predicting the next 5 years is pretty impossible. God knows what it will be like even 3 years from now. That's fair enough. And then he slags you a wee bit here, Martin. He says, well, you missed the cup final. Shame on you.
Look, I didn't miss it. I mentioned it, but look, he's probably right. I should have focused on it. Oh, sorry, that not going to watch it?
Not actually watching it, mate. Yes, disgraceful behaviour.
He is right. The only thing I would say is, not even in my defence, but for the night we were winning the league, I did actually get a couple of the boys down there with the comment that we were very lucky to support Celtic and see us winning the league so often, so we should watch it. And I should have went, but all right, I'll take that. Shame. Everything was my name.
Good on you, man. So, and listen, thanks again for contributing. It was some very good contributions from you tonight. Hopefully, you might even become a regular, mate, if you're up for it.
Well, I have been trying to do that, Kev, but his wife's let him off the leash tonight, which is good.
That's good.
Look, I'll certainly contribute when I can. Why don't we say that?
Good on you, mate. Good on you. But no, listen, it's been great to have you on, and thanks very much for agreeing to come on tonight, Martin. It's been good.
Cool.
So, Kev, don't forget a couple of mentions at the end as well. We have to try and promote a little bit.
Go, mate. I'll let you do that.
Yep, just a couple of mentions for probably everyone involved with the Hail Media is the Kano Foundation. So, from what I read, they reached the target to raise money for the kids for next year. So looking at the website, it's 52 children's tickets and 8 adult tickets they've bought and paid for, but they are still looking for extra funding for things like gifts and foods and programs and drinks and all these sort of things that the kids get when they turn up to the games, a scarf or whatever, any sort of little gifts they can get a hold of. So that is an absolutely magnificent gesture from them, so it's good. And the other one is...
Well done, the Kano Foundation.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think there's any. I think everyone probably knows about this, but part 1 of Chris McGuigan's the 10 sort of part series of History of Celtic that was released today. Now I haven't heard the full version, but I heard one of Chris's draft versions during the week, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant personally. But one of our good mates, Jim Blythe, is on there, so he was chatting away about Celtic history as well. So a little bit from Human Torpedo. It is pretty well put together in my humble opinion, and I might have a little bit of work to do for one of them, one or two of them coming up, so I'm pretty excited about that. So Chris, I think, heading over to Vegas, so I think number 2 is he's trying to get 2 rolled out, I think even next week or week after or something. But that is certainly worth a listen. It looks quite long. It's even not quite as long as one of our stupid podcasts, but it's yeah. Give it a crack, give it a listen. I think it was absolutely brilliant. Personally, I learned a few things I didn't know about Celtic history. And here's one for you that Jim Blythe, I think, mentioned, that before Celtic were formed as they are, there was another team in Glasgow called Celtic, based out of Partick.
Ah.
So there you go. So there's little snippets like that you find out. And I think
there
it was
is a Celtic Street in Partick.
Well, basically there was a club there that because they mentioned some of these Irish kind of base clubs, and it was just amazing. I think they said there was something like 52 or 62, I think it was, Irish-based clubs. So there'd be like there was even teams in Kilmarnock, in Broxburn, Shamrock, and these sort of things, and these sort of teams. It's very, very interesting stuff. So have a listen to that if you can. So, but again, same old story. That again we're kind of picking up a podcast sort of towards the end of the season, but there's a whole series of them, in terms of the Hill Hill Media Network, Carluke Shamrock and Homeboys and our good mates, the Rebel Podcast guys. We'll try to get them on tonight, but I think Callum's away to the football.
Yeah, we were away to the Bombers.
Actually,
They were getting
Martin,
beat at half time.
What was the final score, Martin, the Essendon game? Did you
Don't
win?
know, I know the Bombers because my Facebook has just exploded with comments from the Bombers. So, yeah, and I think it was quite a close game. I would also like to mention, while we're doing these mentions at the end, that I'm currently on the Maserati store. If they don't want to send me a car, they do watches, caps, aftershave, any of these. I'm happy to wear any of them and endorse them because they look like top gear.
All right.
There you go. There you go.
Well, I just want to say,
from Mr. Maserati's listening.
Well, I've
Sort out Martin with a cap.
I've got two kids. I just want to mention Huggies are great nappies. So that would save us some money. So get those nappies to us. So yeah. So different podcasts. There's Temporary Stand. There's TikTok. There's us. Or these Lost Boys, obviously. Paradise Report. All these people. So if you can get onto hillhillmedia.com, and that's where you'll find a link to the Celtic history podcast, which again is up on the hillhillmedia.com site. So as I said, have a listen. It is so Jim Blythe, Paul McQuaid, Celtic Graves are on it. They are very, very interesting guys, and it's really well put together. Human Torpedo, the whole shebang. It's really, really good. So give it a listen.
Brilliant.
And I better get the song lined up, shouldn't I, Kev?
You can get the song lined up while I just say the final wee bit, and I'll just give my usual shout out to anybody that's listening in from the Mandra CSC, anybody that's listening in from the Erngobra CSC back in Coatbridge, but also a boy at my work today that I was chatting away and I was telling him about this wee podcast we do. Darren Mitchell's his name, down in Albany. So Big Mitch, if you're listening in, mate, there's your shout out for you that I said I'd maybe do for you. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks everyone for listening, all 20 or 30 of you, or whatever it is just now. We know it's the end of the season, but we'll definitely be back towards... We'll need to have a think about this part, what we're going to do, but I'm reckoning round about Champions League-ish time, we'll maybe do another wee one then and start off. We'll have a wee close season ourselves, mate, for a few weeks, and then we'll get back into it, I think.
Sounds like a plan. Sounds good. Also, thanks to Kevin McBride and Jimmy Johnson, JJ back in Airdrie as well for taking part in the show as well. That was good.
Yep. And Jimmy Kinlan, as always, for your retweets, mate. We'll get you on again, speak to you again soon, Jim, I'm sure. But yeah, other than that, Pat, have you got the good old tune to send us off?
I think I'll have it ready, Kevin. Yes. Hopefully it plays.
Good on you. And yes, just remember this show was brought to you in association with Heineken.
and Maserati.
And Huggies.
And Huggies.
Is that something for everyone? You can get fished, put aftershave on, and then wet yourself.
Right, cheers, guys. Hail, hail.
All right, thanks, guys.
I would like to leave this city. This old town don't smell too pretty, and I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. And when I leave this island, I book myself into a soul asylum. 'cause I can feel the warning signs running around my mind. So here I go, still scratching around in the same old hole. My body feels young, but my mind is very old. So what do you say? You can't give me the dreams that are mine anyway. Half the world away, half the world away, half the world away. I've been lost